After being rejected 10 times, I don't want you anymore. On their third anniversary, Hongshen mustered up the courage to propose to Lu Canshuang. However, just as he was about to do so, she received a call from her first love, who had just returned to the country. Without even having the time to say yes or no, she hurriedly left. Thinking about the message that man had sent her, Hongshen knew he had lost. Utterly disappointed, he immediately agreed to the marriage arrangement set up by his family. Without hesitation, he started packing, sold his house, handed over his work, and erased all traces of his existence before leaving without looking back. 2 years later, they met again at a business meeting between two partnered companies. Her pupils trembled, even her red lips quivered, and beneath the table, her fingers clenched tightly as she struggled to suppress her emotions. Chapter 1. On the day I proposed to my girlfriend, her first love returned. Without hesitation, she abandoned me to pick him up and even brought him home. They sat at the table, eating the romantic dinner I had prepared for the proposal, reminiscing about the past with an intimate air. I clenched my jaw, but my girlfriend remained indifferent. Zhu Xian is my first love. I've had a crush on him for so many years, you know that. Now that he's back and even reached out to me first, inviting him for dinner is the least I can do. So, feeling a little emotional, I think that's normal, right? You understand, don't you? She looked at me calmly, certain that I would once again give in. But this time, she was wrong. In a Kyoto-style villa in the city center, Hongshen knelt on one knee, dressed in a formal black suit. Holding his girlfriend's hand, his eyes were full of hope and tenderness. Canshuang, will you marry me? This was his 10th proposal. The room was beautifully decorated with flowers and balloons, creating a dreamy atmosphere. On the table was a carefully prepared Western-style dinner. Candles on the floor were arranged in the shape of a heart, making the moment overwhelmingly romantic. Facing his eager gaze, Lu Canshuang hesitated, a struggle evident in her expression. Suddenly, a special ringtone chimed. Her face changed instantly. She withdrew her hand from his grasp without a second thought and answered the call. You landed early. Okay, I'll come pick you up. At that moment, Hongshen felt as if his heart had plummeted from a skyscraper. The room was so quiet that he could clearly hear the man's voice on the other end. And he recognized it. Zhu Xian. Lu Canshuang's senior and the man she had secretly loved for years. Years ago, they were on the verge of becoming a couple, but the Zhu family's business suddenly ran into trouble. Zhu Xian had to go abroad to handle the crisis, leaving his love behind. Not long after, Lu Canshuang agreed to date Hongshen. Back then, she had many suitors. Even without analyzing it, Hongshen had a vague idea of why she chose him. Because his features bore a slight resemblance to Zhu Xian's. Now, watching her hang up the phone, even though despair had already set in, he still clung to a sliver of hope. I have to pick someone up from the airport. It's urgent, she said impatiently, her delicate brows slightly furrowed. You go ahead and eat. While you're at it, tidy up the place and make sure to put out the candles. She spoke in a rushed tone, her attitude firm, showing not even a shred of hesitation before turning and walking away. With a loud slam of the door, she was gone. Hongshen slowly stood up from the floor. He lifted his foot and, with a numb expression, crushed each candle flame beneath his shoe. His heart no longer ached. Lu Canshuang was his senior in university. From the moment he first met her, he had fallen for her at first sight. He spent 3 years chasing after her, finally winning her over after graduation. For the past 3 years, he had showered her with all his love and devotion. Late at night, he would drive across the city just to buy her favorite snacks. He stayed up for days, helping her with work. Whenever she had to attend business gatherings, he took care of the drinking for her. When they got home, he would make porridge to soothe her stomach. Because of her, he became an excellent cook. Despite holding dual degrees, he gave up promising opportunities just because she mentioned she wanted him around more. He often turned down projects just to spend time with her. Yesterday, he saw the messages on her phone and learned that Zhu Xian was returning today. Their conversation had been affectionate, too affectionate. At that moment, he had already lost hope for the proposal. But everything had already been arranged, so he had thought, what if? Yet today, her actions had completely crushed that final sliver of hope. After silently cleaning up, Hongshen picked up his phone and called his father. His family had been urging him to return home for an arranged marriage. At 28, it was time for him to settle down. When the call connected, he got straight to the point. "Dad, I've decided to come back for the blind date." "Set a time." "You've made up your mind." His father's voice was full of surprise and excitement. "Yes, I've thought it through. I won't change my mind." Hongshen's voice was calm. Originally, his plan was to bring Lu Canshuang home if she had accepted his proposal. He had even handed off his work projects in preparation. Now, at least, those arrangements weren't wasted. They just made it easier for him to leave. "But I still need 2 more weeks to wrap things up here. I'll return after that," he added. Chapter 2. In half a month, the apartment he bought in the city center should be sold. If necessary, he could lower the price below the market rate. After hanging up the phone, Hongshen bought a plane ticket and sent a screenshot to his father to reassure him. For 3 years, Lu Canshuang had always given the same reason for rejecting his marriage proposals: his financial situation was inadequate. As the heiress of the Lu group, Lu Canshuang had high expectations. To meet them, Hongshen not only took care of her daily needs but also worked hard to prove his capabilities. He joined Lu Group and, in 3 years, saved enough to buy an apartment and a car while establishing a solid reputation in the industry. Although he took on fewer projects, they were all major deals that others couldn't handle. He thought that by meeting all her expectations, he would earn her approval. But it was all just his own wishful thinking. Before he could even clean up the rose petals on the floor, the front door swung open. Laughter echoed from outside. It was Lu Canshuang and Zhu Xian. In their 3 years of dating, Hongshen had never seen Lu Canshuang smile so brightly. He used to think she was naturally cold, but now he realized she was only cold to him. "This is Senior Zhu Xian. You know him," Lu Canshuang introduced, her eyes filled with joy. "Hongshen, right. Canshuang mentioned you on the way here. She said you're very considerate and take great care of her." Zhu Xian sounded polite, but his underlying contempt was unmistakable. It was as if he was satisfied with how well Hongshen had taken care of Lu Canshuang on his behalf. Hongshen simply nodded without speaking. Zhu Xian's face stiffened for a moment but quickly recovered. He sniffed the air and said, "Smells delicious. Did you cook, Hongshen?" Lu Canshuang pushed past Hongshen, pulling Zhu Xian to the dining table. She sat beside him, her eyes gleaming with delight. "Yes, he made Wellington steak and lobster, your favorites. You haven't had dinner yet, right? Perfect timing, let us eat together." Their intimate behavior made Hongshen's heart ache. So, all these years, the food she claimed to love was actually Zhu Xian's favorite. "It tastes great," Zhu Xian said, helping himself to a piece of lobster. He cast a glance at Hongshen before turning back to Lu Canshuang. "But I've had so much Western food abroad, it all tastes about the same. Do you know what I've missed the most?" Lu Canshuang's eyes sparkled as she eagerly responded, "The fresh meat soup dumplings from the shop behind the school. Har, you have a great memory. We used to go there all the time. Remember that time I craved them, and you ran out in the middle of the night to buy some, only to get locked outside the dorm? I had to get someone to let you back in." Zhu Xian chuckled as he reached out to ruffle Lu Canshuang's hair, his face full of fondness. Hongshen listened silently, feeling a dull ache in his heart. That night, she had called him to pick her up from the school gate. Zhu Xian had merely made a phone call. Security hadn't even arrived in time. Yet Lu Canshuang credited everything to Zhu Xian. Zhu Xian's gaze flickered toward Hongshen, his voice dropping as if sharing a secret. "But what I miss the most is your red soup noodles. I could never find anything like it abroad. I tried making it myself, but it never tasted quite right. I sent you the recipe so many times, and you still can't get it right." Lu Canshuang playfully scolded, her cheeks flushing. "I'll make you a bowl right now." With that, she immediately got up and walked into the kitchen. Hongshen's eyes turned cold. In their 3 years together, Lu Canshuang had never once mentioned that she could cook. All their meals had been prepared by him. He had even learned different cuisines just for her. At that moment, Zhu Xian stood up and walked to the water dispenser, acting like their host. Looking at Hongshen, he asked, "Want some water? I'll pour you a glass." "No need, I'll do it myself." Seeing Zhu Xian reaching for Lu Canshuang's couple's mug, Hongshen instinctively reached out to stop him. But Zhu Xian had already pressed the hot water button. Boiling water gushed out, splashing against the mug and scalding both of their hands. "R." Zhu Xian let out an exaggerated cry, shaking his reddened hand. "What happened?" Lu Canshuang rushed over in alarm, immediately running to get the first aid kit. "Go rinse it under cold water. I'll get the burn ointment for you." Hongshen stood there, his hand covered in red welts, yet he felt nothing. Zhu Xian had deliberately mentioned that they were both burned, but Lu Canshuang didn't care. She didn't even look at him. Hongshen lifted his gaze and met Zhu Xian's smug expression. Zhu Xian's confidence was clear. No matter how long Hongshen had been with her, he would never be more important than Zhu Xian in her heart. Zhu Xian leaned back on the sofa as Lu Canshuang carefully applied medicine to his hand. His voice softened as he reminisced, "Remember that time at school when I got burned in the cafeteria? You were so scared you cried on the spot and ran off to get medicine, forgetting all about your meal." Lu Canshuang chuckled. "I'm still rushing to get medicine for you now, but at least I'm not panicking and crying anymore. Or do you want to see me cry for you again? How could I bear to see that?" Zhu Xian murmured, his tone dripping with affection. As his gaze swept toward Hongshen, he saw him silently turning and walking upstairs. Chapter 3. Upstairs, Hongshen made a call to a friend in real estate. "Mr. Wang, I remember you have a lot of clients looking to buy property. I have a large flat in Huarchia that I need to sell. The sooner, the better. You want to sell that place? It's an easy sell." Mr. Wang was quite familiar with Hongshen, so he asked a few more questions. "But didn't you say when you bought it that it was going to be your wedding home? Why aren't you getting married anymore? You spent 600,000 or 700,000 on renovations. If you rush to sell now, you'll be taking a loss." "It's fine," Hongshen replied indifferently. "Are you sure? Is this Ms. Lu's idea? She agreed to sell?" Mr. Wang asked again. "Yeah, she agreed." Hongshen smiled faintly. "Don't worry, there won't be any contract disputes. I'm not worried about that. All right, I'll help you find a buyer." After hanging up, the fake smile on Hongshen's face completely disappeared. Lu Canshuang had flaunted her love with Zhu Xian right in front of him. His so-called wedding home had long since become a joke. Since that was the case, they might as well part ways peacefully. After taking a shower, Hongshen planned out the upcoming handover and arrangements. Just as he was about to sleep, the bedroom door was pushed open. Lu Canshuang walked in. Senior left right after dinner, saying he'd stay at a hotel. I actually wanted him to stay at home. Her face still carried the remnants of happiness, her smile tinged with seductive charm. That once alluring expression now only felt like an eyesore to Hongshen. "Are you mad at me?" She quickly noticed his cold attitude and asked. He glanced at her before turning away to the other side of the bed. "I know, you're upset because I didn't agree to your request today, right?" Lu Canshuang sighed and then used her usual coaxing tone, as if comforting a child. "Zhu Xian is my white moonlight. You know I've had a crush on him for years. Now that he's back in the country and even reached out to me first, inviting me to dinner, how could I possibly refuse? So I felt a little emotional. Isn't that normal? You understand, right?" Hongshen let out a laugh. "Normal? Understand?" He really couldn't comprehend Lu Canshuang's shameless logic of openly cheating. "Just give me a little time to process my emotions, okay?" she asked. "And after that?" Hongshen didn't turn around, his voice calm. Lu Canshuang parted her lips but said nothing. Hongshen had already anticipated this outcome. Could she really forget Zhu Xian and marry him? Impossible. "I see." Seeing her silence, Hongshen's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Hongshen, you're still angry, I know." Lu Canshuang sighed and silently approached him. She leaned forward, her soft hands resting on his shoulders as she straddled him. Her delicate body pressed against him, her red lips brushing his ear as she whispered, "Don't be mad, okay?" Such a seductive gesture, yet at this moment, it only made Hongshen feel cold, almost ridiculous. Was she doing this to keep him from causing trouble for Zhu Xian? Just then, Lu Canshuang's phone rang again. That special ringtone. At this hour, no one from work would dare disturb her. The only person who would call was him. Sure enough, Lu Canshuang immediately got up to answer, her movements more urgent than ever. Hongshen watched her coldly. As expected, the caller was Zhu Xian. I didn't even realize it was raining outside. Okay, I'll come pick you up now. Don't worry. After hanging up, she turned to Hongshen with a hint of apology in her eyes. It's raining heavily outside, and there aren't any taxis available here. You see. All right, I got it. Hongshen cut her off before she could finish. Lu Canshuang was momentarily stunned, but she quickly set aside her surprise and left without another word. When she returned, it was already past midnight. Though Hongshen hadn't slept at all, he turned off the lights and pretended to be asleep. At first, he thought she wouldn't come back. The bedroom door was gently pushed open, followed by her soft voice. Hongshen. He was awake but deliberately deepened his breathing, giving no response. She raised her voice slightly and called out again. He had always been a light sleeper normally, he would be woken up. But tonight, he didn't react at all. The next morning, Hongshen woke up early to find a message from his mother about his arranged matchmaking. He didn't bother reading the details and called her back instead. I've sent you the photo and information of the girl you're supposed to meet. It's the childhood engagement we set up for you. Did you see it? What do you think? It's all right, Hongshen replied perfunctorily. All right is good. His mother sounded delighted. Marriage isn't about finding perfection. The longer you spend together, the better it gets. If things go well, why not get the marriage certificate first, hold the wedding, and then slowly build your relationship? You'll have plenty of time. Hongshen chuckled. Normally, he would joke around with her, but today he was in no mood. He simply hummed in acknowledgement. So when are you coming back? His mother asked. You need to prepare for the wedding yourself. Think about what kind of ceremony you want. A wedding? Isn't he the groom just a decoration? Hongshen joked. You and the bride can decide. Let her have her way. After all, a business marriage wouldn't involve any real feelings. If the bride cared about the wedding, it was better to let her handle everything. You child. His mother sighed helplessly. All right, I'll let everyone in the family know. Sure. Just let me know the date, and I'll come back in advance. Hongshen agreed. The moment he finished speaking, the bedroom door was pushed open. It was Lu Canshuang. She frowned, her tone wary. What wedding? Chapter 4. Hongshen didn't expect her to come over. He paused for 2 seconds before replying indifferently, a friend is getting married, and I was invited to the wedding. I see. Lu Canshuang visibly breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing her reaction, Hongshen gripped his phone tightly, a wave of bitterness surging in his heart. But Lu Canshuang didn't notice. She smiled gently and said, There's breakfast in the kitchen. Go eat. Then, she turned and left. It wasn't work hours yet, so it was clear she had something else to do. Hongshen forced himself not to overthink and focused on the breakfast she mentioned. He was quite surprised and was reminded of their past happy moments, making his heart ache. Getting out of bed, he went downstairs and entered the kitchen. The counter was a mess, and the rice container had been left open. It looked like an explosion site. Yet, the dining table was empty, except for a paper bag that hadn't been opened. It was takeout from a nearby restaurant. He glanced at the receipt attached to the bag. It was a classic set meal from that restaurant, the first option that popped up in the delivery menu, chosen without much thought. The meal included peanut butter bread. But he was allergic to peanuts. Frowning slightly, he turned to look at the kitchen counter. The rice cooker lid was open, and there was a small amount of porridge left inside, still slightly warm. Thinking about the bag Lu Canshuang had been carrying earlier, he suddenly understood. She had cooked porridge and packed it in a thermos, most likely for Zhu Xian. Afraid he would be dissatisfied, she ordered him takeout. The slight hope that had risen in his heart was crushed completely, leaving him in utter despair. Hongshen couldn't help but let out a laugh. How foolish he had been, thinking that Lu Canshuang would actually cook for him. Her heart was full of Zhu Xian. How could she ever think of him? He didn't touch the breakfast and walked straight out the door. He listed the house for sale on 3 different apps. Soon, real estate agents would be reaching out. This area had a great location, and he didn't care how much he could sell it for. There would be buyers quickly. Once he finished handing over his work and resigned, he could leave. When he arrived at the company, he went straight to his office. Before he could even turn on his computer to prepare his resignation paperwork, Vice President Chen Ping walked in. Manager He, I need to inform you of something. Chen Ping had a serious expression. After stepping in, he sighed. It's President Lu's decision. From now on, Zhu Xian will take over as the project department manager, and you will be reassigned as deputy manager. Your salary and benefits will remain unchanged, but you will be assisting Zhu Xian. What? He Hongshen couldn't believe his ears. They called it a lateral move, saying his rank hadn't changed, but a deputy manager still had to report to the manager. Such an unfair decision made by Lu Canshuang herself. I don't know what President Lu is thinking either. Maybe this Zhu Xian has some exceptional qualities, considering he was parachuted into such an important department. Chen Ping's gaze was meaningful, clearly thinking of many possibilities but choosing not to say them outright. Manager He, I know you worked your way up from the bottom purely through ability, and your promotions were even slower than others. Chen Ping sighed again. But there's nothing that can be done. Don't worry, I'll speak up for you in high-level meetings whenever possible. President Lu has always been fair. Fair? He Hongshen chuckled. She used to be fair, but now, for Zhu Xian, she had completely broken her own principles. In the past, to hide their relationship, Lu Canshuang had made He Hongshen start from the bottom. She never gave him any advantages in the company. For all these years of their relationship, no one in the company ever knew who he really was. He had understood her reasoning. But now, the irony hit him like a slap in the face. So in front of someone she truly liked, her so-called principles didn't matter at all. Chen Ping opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing. He, too, felt that Lu Canshuang's decision was unfair. In the end, he simply patted He Hongshen on the shoulder. This office will be his now. You should hand things over to him. After that, he turned and left. He Hongshen sat back in his chair. Well, this certainly made things easier. Before, he was still considering how long it would take to properly transfer his responsibilities for key projects. But now that Zhu Xian had arrived, he would surely be eager to seize full control as soon as possible. Leaving now would be simple. There might not even be a handover, he could be kicked out immediately. Just as he was lost in thought, there were 2 knocks on his open office door. Zhu Xian walked in, his expression arrogant. With his chin raised slightly, he looked at He Hongshen with a smug smile. Surprised? Zhu Xian scanned him, searching for any sign of humiliation. I didn't expect this either. I thought Canshuang would just find me some random position in the company, but I didn't expect her to be this enthusiastic. Yes, quite a surprise. He Hongshen stood up. Looks like you really couldn't make it abroad, huh? Even a small managerial position in the country makes you so happy, and you still needed someone to parachute you in. Chapter 5. Zhu Xian's face changed instantly. He gritted his teeth and ordered coldly, pack up and leave. I love cleanliness. Remember to wipe the table twice with disinfectant wipes. My duties do not include wiping the table. He Hongshen replied expressionlessly, if wiping the table is part of your job as a new manager, you can do it yourself. Zhu Xian did not expect He Hongshen to be so rude to him. It seems that my future deputy manager has a temper. He smiled with a bit of viciousness, raised his eyebrows sarcastically. Junior He, you still don't know your identity. He Hongshen looked at him calmly. What do you want to say? Of course it's about Canshuang. You have been with her for so many years, what does she think of you? Doesn't she not care about you at all? On the contrary, as soon as I came back, she offered me the position of manager with both hands. He laughed twice. If I want her, it's just a matter of a word, and she can be willing to open the room. With a bang, Zhu Xian's voice was interrupted. He Hongshen punched him in the face. Suddenly, 2 lines of blood flowed down Zhu Xian's nose. Does she know you think so? He Hongshen's aura was terrifying. He never thought Zhu Xian would say such disgusting words. Lu Canshuang actually likes such a scumbag? Zhu Xian screamed, never expecting He Hongshen to dare to do it. He held He Hongshen's arm, holding his collar tightly with both hands, and was strangled to breathe. But he was not as tall as He Hongshen, and he didn't have much muscle, so he couldn't beat him at all. You dare to say this in front of her? He Hongshen was still angry, and he raised his fist. Just as he was about to hit it again, an angry female voice suddenly came from the door of the office. He Hongshen. What are you doing? Don't let go. Are you crazy? When Lu Canshuang came over, she saw He Hongshen was about to hit Zhu Xian with his fist, and immediately stopped him. She walked over quickly and pulled the two apart. Seeing the blood on Zhu Xian's face, Lu Canshuang's face changed. Hurry up and get a tissue. Are you okay? Do you feel dizzy? Do you want to go to the hospital? It's okay. Zhu Xian took 2 steps back and wiped it with a tissue. There were several drops of red blood on his white shirt, and he looked embarrassed and pitiful. Even the corner of his mouth was broken. He shrieked and grimaced in pain when he spoke. But he still insisted, it's just a minor injury. It's okay as long as manager he vents his anger. Took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. Zhu Xian called him manager he, obviously trying to make Lu Canshuang misunderstand the reason for the dispute between the two. Let Lu Canshuang think that he hit him because he was dissatisfied with Zhu Xian's airborne manager. Before he could speak, Lu Canshuang shouted. Hongshen, the personnel transfer is a company order. You took action because of this? Go back and calm down. You don't have to go to work today. Come back when you have figured it out. She didn't even ask a question, she had already listened to Zhu Xian's words and made an arbitrary judgment. Hongshen looked at Lu Canshuang in disbelief. She was unreasonable, had no bottom line, and was devoted to Zhu Xian. These were her true colors. Hongshen didn't want to say anything more, just lowered his eyes and said calmly, okay. If he said those words, Zhu Xian would simply say it was a misunderstanding or slander, and he would have no way to defend himself, and Lu Canshuang would not believe it. Hongshen picked up his bag in silence and strode out of the office. As soon as he left the company, his cell phone rang. Mr. He, is that you? I'm a real estate agent. Do you have a house to sell? Is it convenient for you to see it today? The agent who called was sincere and said that the buyer was pregnant before marriage and was in a hurry to buy a house and get married. If their house was suitable, the contract could be signed on the same day. Hongshen was quite surprised. He didn't expect someone to come to see the house so soon, but he didn't expect to sell it immediately. It would be good to let the agent come to take pictures. Fortunately, he was free today, so he immediately made an appointment to see it in half an hour. When he got home, the agent was already standing at the door of the villa with a young couple. He simply greeted them and opened the door while introducing them. The courtyard at the entrance is designed in Kyoto style, and the interior is in minimalist American style. The overall white and wood color are matched, which is easy to maintain and very eye-catching. Every place was designed by Hongshen himself for a happier life for him and Lu Canshuang. He still remembers that he had made minor adjustments based on the plans of many architects, and finally found the design that best suited Lu Canshuang. He had endured countless nights so that she could live a more comfortable life. Her compliment when he moved in became the highest reward he received. Unfortunately, he only received that one compliment. Lu Canshuang seemed to think that she deserved it and had no gratitude. Chapter 6. There are 3 mirrors in the dressing room, facing the window, with 2 effects of natural light and light. There is also a small stage here to view the whole body effect. The door on this side just leads to the cloakroom. The bathroom and bedroom on the east side of the first floor are designed for pregnant women. If it is inconvenient to move during the advance period, you can use these handrails for help. The female client who was viewing the house was about the same height as Lu Canshuang, and even these designs made specifically for her could be used directly. The female client was full of surprise. Where did you find the designer? It was so detailed. I designed it myself. Hongshen smiled bitterly. Wow. That's amazing. You are so good to your wife. The female client was touched. It's not just my wife. Hongshen wanted to skip this topic, but the other party kept asking. Then why did you suddenly sell the house? I see, this house is quite new. I plan to get married. Hongshen simply told the truth, otherwise, he didn't know how to explain. However, he only told part of the truth. The person he married was not the woman living in the villa. You are going to move to a bigger house, right? That's great. The female customer looked very surprised, as if she was moved by Hongshen's love. Don't worry. Hongshen added very rationally, I bought the house in full, and there is only my name on the property certificate. You don't have to worry about disputes. Both of them were very satisfied with the house and said that they would give an answer in the next few days. When he went out, Hongshen met the old lady who lived next door and was also asked why she wanted to sell their house. There was no way, he had to repeat his words that he was going to get married. The old lady also blessed him with great anticipation like the female customer. She also said that after so many years together, they finally got married, which was really worth blessing. Hongshen listened, struggling to maintain his smile, but his heart was filled with bitterness. He went home after having a simple meal at a store outside. He had to pack up tonight. Once he had completed his resignation, he could move out and tell Lu Canshuang everything, making a decent farewell. She probably wouldn't care, and would even be thankful. But, to Hongshen's surprise, the lights were on in the villa, and Lu Canshuang was already at home. As soon as she entered the door, she stood up from the sofa, her face full of anger. Hongshen, what did you say outside? Hongshen was stunned. What? He thought she was still angry about him beating Zhu Xian during the day, or that Zhu Xian had bitten back. Just as she was about to explain what Zhu Xian had said, she asked. My neighbor congratulated me on getting married. He also congratulated me and said that my husband bought me a big house. We are moving to a better house. Hongshen, it's fine if you're jealous and hit someone. Now you're spreading rumors outside. When did I say I was going to marry you? It looked like it was shameful to be rumored to be married to him. Seeing Lu Canshuang's rather angry look, Hongshen clenched his fists and just felt ridiculous. Was Lu Canshuang afraid that such rumors would make Zhu Xian angry, or did Bai Yueguang come back and she didn't want to have anything to do with him as a substitute? Whatever the reason, it was over between them. Hongshen closed his eyes in disappointment, unable to muster any strength. Just think of me as spreading rumors. Anyway, I've already sold the house, and I'm too lazy to argue with you. This was the first time Hongshen spoke to her in such an impatient tone. Lu Canshuang was stunned for 2 seconds, revealing a hint of disbelief. What did you say? Hongshen looked at her calmly and didn't say anything. Lu Canshuang crossed her arms and raised her chin, and even the pearl earrings on her earlobes were shaking. She said arrogantly, Hongshen, do you have any ambition? Aren't you just jealous because the senior is back? Hongshen frowned, not wanting to continue talking to her, and prepared to go upstairs directly. Anyway, after selling the house and going through all the procedures, he can leave. Being ignored by Hongshen, Lu Canshuang's face froze, and she said coldly, I tell you, you must go and apologize to Brother Zhu tomorrow. Hongshen paused, and a mocking smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. What if I don't go? Lu Canshuang's willow leaf eyebrows frowned even tighter, and her beautiful eyes were full of impatience. How long are you going to make trouble? I proposed the company's job transfer, and I only look at ability. You know that, and you also beat Brother Zhu. Do you know how embarrassed I am? Hongshen sneered, and bitterness rose in his heart. Embarrassing? She actually knew embarrassment. When giving his position to Zhu Xian, why didn't he think about whether he would be embarrassed? For Lu Canshuang, he has given everything for many years, almost humbly dedicating everything. For Lu Canshuang, even if the sky fell and the earth collapsed, he was reluctant to really leave. But this time, he was serious. He looked at the woman he had loved for many years, and finally said what was in his heart calmly, Lu Canshuang, let's break up. Chapter 7. He really gave up. Lu Canshuang was already angry, and immediately said, let's break up. Hongshen, don't regret it and come back like a dog to beg me to get back together with you. Hongshen's mouth flashed a light mockery, I regret being with you. The word dog hurt his nerves. In Lu Canshuang's heart, Hongshen, turned out to be a dog. But then again, how can it not be counted? A dog licker is also a dog. Sure enough, in the end, there is nothing left. Throwing this sentence, Hongshen went upstairs without looking back. He devoted his heart and soul for 3 years, thinking that he could win the beauty and be together for life, but he didn't expect that in the end, he was just a spare tire and a joke. Lu Canshuang was so angry that her chest hurt. Hongshen, you were the one who pursued me at the beginning, and now you say you regret it. Get out of here. When these words reached Hongshen's ears, Hongshen felt that they were so harsh. I pursued you, and I also paid for 3 years. You can refuse my proposal. Do I have to stay with you forever? After Hongshen finished speaking, he turned back to his room, intending to pack a few clothes and go out to stay in a hotel. As soon as he opened the closet, he had a self-mockery in his eyes. There were many couple clothes in the closet, but Lu Canshuang had never worn them once. He took 2 clothes casually and went out with his bag on his back. In the living room, Lu Canshuang sat on the sofa in the living room. On the coffee table in front of her was a pot of large cherries. She didn't eat them. But at this time, Zhu Xian's voice came out, Shuang, don't be angry with people who are not worth it. I'm just beaten up. It's nothing. He Hongshen subconsciously glanced at Lu Canshuang, who was video chatting with Zhu Xian. She was still in her pajamas, and she was video chatting with Zhu Xian. Was it possible that as soon as he left, she would sleep with him? He Hongshen felt very upset when he thought of this. He didn't want to look at him anymore, so he walked out quickly. He went out and found a hotel nearby. As soon as he checked in, his phone kept ringing. He picked it up and saw that his mother had already created a group chat and sent several messages. His mother: Hongshen, you always ignore me. This time, I won't allow you to do that. I created a group chat. You guys can chat properly. He Hongshen glanced at the group chat. His mother first sent an emoticon package as an opening. This is called the matchmaker leading you in. It's up to you guys to follow up. I'm leaving first. His mother was very fast and left immediately. There were only him and the girl he was dating in the group chat. The avatar was an anime rabbit, and there was no record in the moments. He Hongshen was about to put down his phone when a message popped up in the group: "Hello, brother Hongshen tilde." The other party also sent a cute bunny greeting emoticon. He Hongshen was a little surprised. He had grown up, and only one person had given him a nickname: Uncle Li's daughter, Li Qingshu. When she was a child, the little girl with two pigtails following behind him. Brother Hongshen, you remembered me, didn't you tilde? Another message popped up. He Hongshen stopped thinking. I remembered. He really didn't expect that the blind date was her. It's good to remember, my parents and aunt are preparing. I know you are busy, I will send you some things tomorrow, we can refer to them together. Tell me when you come back, I will pick you up. Just decide on those things, I have something to do tomorrow, I'm going to sleep first. He Hongshen couldn't help but find it a little funny. The people who wanted to get married the most didn't get together, and a joke from childhood actually came true. When they were little, Li Qingshu said many times that she wanted to marry him when she grew up. He thought that the person he was dating was a complete stranger, and he was prepared to not care who it was. But thinking of how Li Qingshu was soft and cold when she was little, but she only smiled at him. He Hongshen's mouth corners rose unconsciously. Even his head, which had just been hurt by Lu Canshuang's attitude, seemed to be relieved a lot. Ding! A message popped up on the phone: Good night, brother Hongshen tilde. Good night. After replying, He Hongshen subconsciously glanced at the time. It was almost 12 o'clock. And Lu Canshuang didn't have a message. He smiled bitterly twice. He Hongshen, what are you still looking forward to? Chapter 8. Ding dong. A friend request suddenly popped up on the phone. He glanced at it. It was a friend request from Zhu Xian. The other party's words were so provocative. He Hongshen, a stand-in should have the awareness of a stand-in. He Hongshen was very angry. He didn't need Zhu Xian to remind him of this. When he clicked to reply, he realized that even if he had a clear relationship with Zhu Xian, it didn't matter. He and Lu Canshuang were over. There was no need for him to let some irrelevant people affect his emotions. He Hongshen exited the WeChat page. Although he felt uncomfortable, he didn't give up on himself. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. What he didn't expect was that he actually dreamed. He dreamed of the time in the compound before, and dreamed of the little girl with two pigtails, holding his hand, so firmly. Brother Hongshen, thank you for saving me. Don't worry, I will definitely repay you. When I grow up, I will marry you. He Hongshen opened his eyes. He rubbed his eyebrows, lay down for a few seconds, and got up. He packed up and went to the company. Everything has a beginning and an end. He submitted his resignation letter. Unexpectedly, Zhu Xian threw the resignation letter to the ground in front of him. After the beating, I want to resign irresponsibly. He Hongshen, you are too cowardly. Zhu Xian stared at him, with a sarcastic smile on his lips. He Hongshen was not affected at all, bent down to pick up the resignation letter, and put it back on Zhu Xian's desk. If you want to talk about cowardice, it should be you. You didn't fight back when you were beaten. You. He Hongshen's light tone immediately angered Zhu Xian. Zhu Xian was furious, but the next second, he sneered, I can beat you back to your original form by not fighting back once. He Hongshen, what's the use of you paying for Shuang for so many years? In the end, she didn't even listen to your explanation. You are so pitiful. This angered He Hongshen, and He Hongshen slapped the table. Zhu Xian, if you don't want to be beaten, just shut up. Sen Hen's eyes fell on Zhu Xian, and he felt a chill on his back. After a moment, Zhu Xian reacted, pointed to the top of his head, and smiled complacently. This is the office. If you want to go to the police station, you can do whatever you want. Seeing that Hongshen didn't say anything, Zhu Xian's smile became more and more complacent. Look at you, such a big man, you don't even have the confidence to resign and pay 3 times the salary of the company, and you dare to shout in front of me. In everyone's eyes, Hongshen is a gigolo with no future and background. Hongshen doesn't have the confidence to resign. In fact, Hongshen can resign, but he doesn't want the results of his hard work to go to waste. Hongshen said coldly, if you don't want to be called by the relevant departments, just follow the procedures honestly. Zhu Xian thought that Hongshen was controlled by the triple compensation, and he even had a plan in mind. You can resign, but the company is busy recently. And you must complete the project in your hands. As long as the cooperation is 10%, I will immediately let the finance department pay you and let you go. I don't agree. The project in his hands is the hardest bone to chew. He and Lao Chen in the department have not chewed it up until now. According to Zhu Xian's meaning, he will spend 10 days, half a month, or even half a year here. Now he is a thorn in the eyes and a thorn in the flesh for Zhu Xian and Lu Canshuang. They don't like him, and he also feels unlucky when he sees them. It's better to break up. If you don't agree and the project can't be completed, then I can only follow the process. However, Chen Ping, who has the best relationship with you. Zhu Xian didn't finish his words, but the smile on his mouth became deeper and deeper. Hongshen's anger burst out from the bottom of his heart. Zhu Xian, you are such a despicable villain. Zhu Xian was not affected at all, but laughed. I am the department manager of the company, so of course I have to consider the development of the company. No company will keep an idle person. Hongshen did not speak, he was thinking about Lao Chen. Lao Chen has been in the company for a long time, and last time Lao Chen borrowed money from him for his mother's surgery. If he was fired, Lao Chen would not be able to find a good job for a while, and I am afraid that his family would not be able to make ends meet. Hongshen immediately stopped thinking and said coldly, I only do things within my scope of responsibility. If there is a project, just send it to me directly. If it is too much work, I will not do it. After speaking, Hongshen turned around and left without looking back. He even slammed the door hard. This movement shocked the entire project department. But everyone looked at each other, and no one said anything. Unexpectedly, Hongshen just returned to his office and his mobile phone rang. It was Lu Canshuang who called him. When Hongshen saw her number, he felt a little hopeful. Unexpectedly, what he heard was Lu Canshuang's question, Hongshen, you haven't made enough trouble yet, have you? You can't tell the difference between the company and the family. Let me ask you, do you think Zhu Xian and I owe you something, and should support you and tolerate your temper? Lu Canshuang became angrier and scolded him again. It seems that he just had a conversation with Zhu Xian in the office, slammed the door, and was complained to Lu Canshuang by Zhu Xian. In Lu Canshuang's eyes, since he had been convicted, what else could he explain? Hongshen smiled faintly, I don't think so, but I have already resigned. And, Mr. Lu, are you scolding me like this for the public or for private? Lu Canshuang choked, and before she could say anything, Hongshen hung up the phone. Lu Canshuang sent another warning message, you can't deny that Zhu Xian is more capable than you. If you get angry again, get out of here immediately. Hongshen felt a prick in his heart. He really didn't expect that in Lu Canshuang's eyes, he was so useless. He really wanted to leave immediately. However, Lao Chen came over at this time, and Lao Chen's words were a bit pleading, Hongshen, for the sake of past friendship, you should treat it as a favor to Big Brother and stay for a while to complete this project, okay? Lao Chen's eyes were full of hope. Hongshen knew Lao Chen's situation and couldn't refuse. So, Hongshen continued to follow up on the project of Mr. Jiang in his hands, and even personally invited Mr. Jiang to the club. However, he didn't expect that before he had in-depth discussions with Mr. Jiang, he saw Zhu Xian walking in from outside the door. Zhu Xian's eyes were like poison, and he noticed him at the first time. Oh, isn't this Xiao He who is planning to resign? Hongshen's face was stiff. Chapter 9. Chen Ping smiled and said, Manager, he came with me. As long as we are still in the company, we will work hard for the company. As expected of an old employee, you are conscious. Zhu Xian was very satisfied with Chen Ping's answer. But Zhu Xian came for Hongshen this time. How could he let He Hongshen go easily? He pointed at He Hongshen's nose with an extremely arrogant attitude. Seeing that President Jiang is here, why don't you toast to President Jiang? Are you waiting for President Jiang to toast you? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that this is deliberately pointing at He Hongshen. Considering old Chen, He Hongshen finally compromised. He poured 2 glasses of wine, one for Mr. Jiang and one for himself. Mr. Jiang, we are sincere in discussing this project cooperation with you. I will drink first as a sign of respect. When He Hongshen finished drinking, Mr. Jiang pointed out coldly, for project cooperation, are there only 2 of us now? Manager Zhu and this big brother, aren't they human beings? Oh, Mr. Jiang, this is Mr. Lu's current boyfriend. We all know what a boyfriend is. In his eyes, there is only Mr. Lu. Zhu Xian handed Mr. Jiang a cigarette. The next second, the 2 of them burst into laughter. The veins on the back of He Hongshen's hand were prominent. Zhu Xian's words were ironic. Wasn't he a dog raised by Lu Canshuang? This partner was difficult to deal with, and Zhu Xian was deliberately making things difficult for him. Even if he wanted to help Chen Ping, he couldn't. He looked at Chen Ping and signaled with his eyes, take care of yourself. Zhu Xian, let's talk about cooperation, don't talk about anything else. Since you and Mr. Jiang are old acquaintances, you as the manager of the marketing department should discuss this cooperation. I won't bother you. He Hongshen took his coat and was about to leave the private room. Unexpectedly, he was stopped by Zhu Xian. Wait. He Hongshen stopped. What else? Zhu Xian sneered in a low voice. He Hongshen, as a man, you should know very well that a man's promise is worth 1,000 gold. You don't want me to clean up your mess until you finish the things you took over. Zhu Xian stood up and strode towards He Hongshen. If you ask me, Shuang made it too easy for you to get all this, so you don't know anything. He Hongshen's mouth showed a hint of sarcasm, and his eyes suddenly turned cold. He turned around and punched Zhu Xian. He has been enduring Zhu Xian for a long time. Since it is unbearable, there is no need to endure it anymore. You still dare to hit me, aren't you afraid that Shuang will cause you trouble? Zhu Xian covered his right face and shouted angrily. He Hongshen sneered, because you are here to sow discord, hasn't she caused me enough trouble? Mentioning this, He Hongshen was quite angry. Manager Zhu, are you okay? President Jiang asked with concern, and then raised his voice. I will not cooperate with this kind of violent element who only knows how to beat people. Come on, pull him away. As soon as their voice fell, several security guards rushed in to pull He Hongshen. He Hongshen wanted to struggle, but the security guards were stronger, split into 2 sides, and held him tightly. You like violence, right? President Jiang came over, took the security guard's rubber baton, and stabbed He Hongshen in the stomach. Suddenly, the latter became ferocious because of the pain. Seeing that Mr. Jiang was going to continue, Chen Ping rushed forward to protect He Hongshen. If you do it again, I will call the police. Chen Ping has always been honest in the company. So when He Hongshen attacked just now, he was scared and hid aside, but Mr. Jiang is also quite powerful in the circle. If he really wants to beat him to death, he will feel guilty. After all, he called him here. Zhu Xian covered his face and said unhappily, why are you protecting him? He doesn't allow others to say that he has no ability. Originally, Mr. Jiang thought of my face and said that as long as he drank all the wine obediently, there would be no trouble. Now let's see how he will report to Shuang. Zhu Xian's eyes showed a cold color. Then I won't report. He Hongshen held Chen Ping and left the private room without looking back. In the private room, President Jiang looked at Zhu Xian who was beaten, and was very puzzled. To deal with a gigolo, why not just order directly? Zhu Xian smiled and said, it's different. What's different? President Jiang thought about it, but couldn't think of any difference. Zhu Xian didn't respond, his eyes were as deep as the abyss, and there was no bottom. He Hongshen and Chen Ping were stopped by the police before they walked out of the club. He Hongshen, someone called to report that you failed to bribe and beat people, and you also solicited prostitution. Please come back to the bureau with us for investigation. He Hongshen was stunned. He didn't expect that Zhu Xian would bite back, and even alarmed Lu Canshuang. In the middle of the night, Lu Canshuang showed up at the police station in a domineering manner. Her black eyes exuded coldness, which was also disappointment in him. He Hongshen, do you have to be angry with me in this way? Zhu Xian advised you kindly, how could you still do it to him? I tell you, you must apologize to him, otherwise, I will not bail you out. Hongshen shook his head, and a trace of disappointment appeared in his eyes. I don't need you to bail me out. If you don't need me to bail you out, then why did you give my phone number to the police? Lu Canshuang scolded angrily, in the middle of the night, do you think I want to come here? When she received the call from the police, she was still processing an important document in the company. It's not for me. Hongshen spoke lightly and stopped looking at her. He still had feelings for the dog for 3 years, but his 3 years were wasted. Lu Canshuang didn't want to listen to his explanation. You didn't give it, so why did the police call me? You are not a child, why do you always do such childish things? If Zhu Xian didn't know me, you wouldn't even have a chance to be released on bail. Lu Canshuang said with disdain while signing the bail slip at the police. Hongshen also understood what he meant, and he said nonchalantly, then let him go through the process. Lu Canshuang interrupted with a dark face, I have already signed the letter and you are telling me to go through the process. Hongshen, why didn't I realize that you are so ungrateful before? Yes, I am ungrateful, then go find Zhu Xian who knows what's good for you. Hongshen threw down this sentence and turned around without looking back. Lu Canshuang saw Hongshen's back and became even more angry. She shouldn't have come. She should have found an excuse to say she was busy and let Hongshen be detained by the police for a while. When Lu Canshuang came out, Hongshen was gone. Lu Canshuang called angrily. Hongshen watched his phone vibrate and hung up. He saw Lu Canshuang's furious look in the dark, but he just watched quietly, unmoved. Lu Canshuang didn't call again and got in the car and left. Hongshen came out only after she left. Chapter 10. He knew why Lu Canshuang came to him. He didn't want to hear her accusations, let alone hear anything about Zhu Xian from her mouth. Half an hour later, Hongshen took a taxi back to the hotel. He thought about their house, so he urged the agent, their house matters should be dealt with as soon as possible. He didn't want to delay time here any longer. The agent didn't reply, but he saw a message from Li Qingshu in the group, Brother Hongshen, are you done? Hongshen replied, just replied, it's so late, why haven't you rested yet? Li Qingshu, Jip with tongue out waiting for you. Do you want a Chinese or Western wedding? I have a friend who is a fashion designer. He sent me some pictures of clothes. If you are in a good mood, let's pick some now. She did send a lot of this paragraph. However, he was not in the mood to look at clothes tonight. He wanted to reply directly, but the message was in the chat box, and he felt that being too direct would hurt others. After thinking for a while, he still declined tactfully, I am a little tired. I am not very good at picking things. Li Qingshu was very considerate, Brother Hongshen, then you should rest early. I will send you someone I have selected them. Okay. Hongshen turned off his mobile phone. The next day, he was awakened by the ringing of his mobile phone. It was Lao Chen's call. Lao Chen was very anxious on the phone, Hongshen, come to the company now. Mr. Jiang's project. Mr. Lu is criticizing him by name now. This is not criticizing by name, this is deliberately looking for trouble with him. Without waiting for him to speak, Lao Chen continued, we have been following this project. If we can't get it, I will be fired, and I will have to pay the company 3 million. I don't have so much money. Hongshen comforted Lao Chen, don't worry, I'll go there now and won't let you lose money. He wanted to see what they were up to. The next second, Hongshen flipped out of bed and packed up quickly. He made a phone call on the way to the car, went to the company where Mr. Jiang worked first, and then rushed to the company. Hongshen walked into the company and ran into his colleague, who looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. Mr. Lu is looking for me. I have something to say later. After leaving a word, he walked into the elevator without looking back. He went up all the way to the floor where the president's office was. He walked through the corridor and pushed the door open. As soon as he entered the door, he was hit by the oncoming documents. He was caught off guard and didn't have time to dodge. The company has been eyeing Mr. Jiang's project for so long, and it's about to be signed. Why do you do this? Lu Canshuang asked without giving Hongshen a chance to explain. What did I do? Hongshen looked calm. Lu Canshuang was usually fair in this regard, but once it came to Zhu Xian, she became unfair. He simply wouldn't listen to any explanation. Zhu Xian said that you made trouble on the spot and embarrassed him. President Jiang felt that the quality of our company's employees needs to be improved, so the signing of the contract will be postponed. Lu Canshuang cast a contentious look. You should thank Zhu Xian. If he hadn't temporarily stabilized President Jiang, the cooperation might have fallen through. Hongshen's eyes flashed with coldness. If you hadn't recommended Zhu Xian to their position regardless of his ability and let him do whatever he wanted, I would have won the contract long ago. Speaking of this, Hongshen seemed to remember something again, and a sarcastic smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. President Lu is not only nepotism, but also very considerate to old employees. The contract has not yet been finalized, and this side has begun to make calculations to make up for the losses. Lu Canshuang was stunned. What do you mean by making up for the losses? Seeing that she didn't seem to be pretending, Hongshen immediately understood that this might be Zhu Xian's doing alone, and Lu Canshuang was still kept in the dark, and couldn't help but look at her with a bit of pity. Lu Canshuang was very considerate and attentive to Zhu Xian. I wonder how she will behave when she really sees Zhu Xian's character. Just thinking about it, Hongshen began to look forward to it. The total value of Mr. Jiang's contract is only more than 1 million. Mr. Lu asked employees for 3 million in compensation. It was really wise. Hongshen sneered and had a hint of disgust in his eyes. It's a pity that he was blind before. He spent 3 years immersed in the appearance of love. Even if he was ignored, he still comforted himself in his heart. He ended up like this, which was purely his own fault. Hongshen couldn't help but feel a little self-mockery in his heart, mocking his past self, like a clown. If he left earlier, he would not have to go through all this again. Fortunately, it's not too late now. It's not too late. Manager what 3 million? Please don't change the subject. Even if you resign voluntarily, the company will not give you 3 million in compensation. We will follow the legal procedures. Please be more realistic. Lu Canshuang thought that Hongshen was paving their way for resignation. Even if she didn't care about the 3 million, it wouldn't be cheap for Hongshen. She had already explained it, but Hongshen was still willful and childish. She should have broken up decisively before. If Mr. Lu doesn't know, you might as well ask your old friend. Hongshen emphasized the last 3 words. Although he did not mention the name of that person, Lu Canshuang still thought of Zhu Xian, and a hint of anger appeared in his eyes. I appointed Zhu Xian as the department manager. He must have his reasons for doing anything. If you are not capable enough, just learn more from Zhu Xian and put away your little thoughts. Otherwise, how could you be replaced by Zhu Xian? Listening to the protection in Lu Canshuang's words, Hongshen's face was calm. After experiencing too many ups and downs, he was able to deal with the storms calmly. Lu Canshuang had Zhu Xian in his eyes, so he should be sensible and not continue to act as a conspicuous light bulb and join in the fun. Mr. Lu, have you forgotten that Zhu Xian was appointed by you? Hongshen just thought it was ridiculous. It was obviously Zhu Xian who came from nowhere, but how could it be that he was incapable? If he was incapable, he could climb from the bottom to the position of department manager in 3 years. During this period, there were also Lu Canshuang's difficulties. With his ability, he would have great potential wherever he went. If it weren't for Lu Canshuang, why would he condescend to this? Since Lu Canshuang didn't intend to part ways amicably, there was no need for him to save face for the other party. Just say it out loud, at worst they will break up. In any case, he must settle the 3 million. With him around, he must never let the old employees who have worked together for many years suffer injustice. Why, Zhu Xian came back from studying abroad, can't he take this position with his ability? I just put him in his position in advance. Manager why don't you think about why you were transferred instead of Zhu Xian? Sometimes, shouldn't you look for the reason from yourself? As soon as he finished thinking, Hongshen heard Lu Canshuang's teasing mixed with a sneer. The indifference in his words was like a stranger, like a roommate who shared a house for 3 years, just a nodding acquaintance, and still would not make any concessions in terms of interests. There is no cure. Hongshen shook his head, extremely disappointed with Lu Canshuang, and the idea of resigning jumped out of his mind again. If he had known this, he should not have agreed to Zhu Xian's unreasonable request. He should have finished the handover work and left as soon as possible to save trouble. Why did he have to take over this mess? A hint of helplessness appeared in Hongshen's eyes. There is a word on the internet to describe Mr. Lu's behavior of disregarding the consequences, not thinking, and favoring one-sidedly. Then, he sighed heavily, love brain. If this continues, sooner or later, the company will be ruined by Zhu Xian. Mr. Lu should understand the details instead of listening to one-sided words. Hongshen thought of their many years of friendship and gave a friendly reminder. Sometimes, not all good intentions can bring good results. Lu Canshuang frowned slightly, with a hint of disgust in his eyes. Manager I said before that we don't talk about love affairs in the company. You promised me that there is nothing wrong between Zhu Xian and me, and I have already explained it to you. What else do you want from me? What? What a ridiculous question. Hongshen thought that this sentence should be said by him. He has been sincere and even worked as a licker for 3 years. 3 years of companionship, can't it move Lu Canshuang's cold heart? Or, Lu Canshuang's heart has never stayed on him, even for a second. I will solve the contract issue, and the 3 million compensation will be over. After all, I have been in the company for so many years, and I don't want to tear my face. Hongshen didn't intend to care about it. It has been determined that Lu Canshuang's heart is not on him, so there is no need to keep her. Solving Lao Chen's problem is the top priority. I'm curious about how deputy manager he is going to tear his face off. Zhu Xian pushed the door open with a look of contempt. Chapter 11. I wonder if Manager Zhu has ever heard a saying, if you don't want others to know, then don't do it yourself. Hongshen's face was calm, with a faint smile on his lips. Zhu Xian panicked for no reason, thinking about the previous small action, and after confirming that there was no flaw, he gradually became confident. If you have evidence, bring it out. Spreading rumors and causing trouble will be legally responsible. It is impossible for deputy manager he not to know this common sense, right? After saying that, Zhu Xian cast a provocative look. Mr. Lu, do you want to see it? Hongshen ignored Zhu Xian's provocation and took the initiative to ask Lu Canshuang for his opinion. If Lu Canshuang wanted to see it, he could take it out. If not, there was no need to waste time. Manager please don't change the subject. Lu Canshuang looked cold, with a little impatience on her face. Hongshen understood Lu Canshuang's thoughts, smiled slightly, and did not continue to mention it. Zhu Xian saw his retreat as a sign of defeat, so he immediately took advantage of it and said, Deputy manager he has learned nothing else in these years, but he has mastered the skills of being sneaky and boastful. Manager Zhu's black heart is no less capable. Hongshen teased. He had long disliked Zhu Xian, so he naturally would not indulge him. Besides, the other party had already jumped on his face. If he did not fight back, wouldn't he be weak in momentum and be inferior to the other party for no reason? Deputy manager he is sharp-tongued to his own people, but why did he lose his sense of proportion in cooperation? If deputy manager he had such ability at that time, why did he almost lose the cooperation? At this point, Zhu Xian slapped his head. I forgot that deputy manager he left at that time and left the mess to me to clean up. Fortunately, I was smart enough to react on the spot and barely remedy the mistake, but this cooperation is still in an uncertain state. Really? Hongshen glanced meaningfully. If it weren't for Manager Zhu's interference, the cooperation would have been negotiated. How come it has become Manager Zhu's credit now? Hongshen couldn't just watch Zhu Xian swallow up the credit, and even deliberately discredited them. It was obviously Zhu Xian's fault, but the other party didn't mention it at all. It was really hypocritical. Enough. Lu Canshuang shouted coldly, as a man, you must be brave and responsible. Making mistakes is not terrible, what is terrible is knowing the mistakes and not correcting them. Lu Canshuang's eyes fell on Hongshen. Manager as a senior executive of the company, you must take the lead. If other employees are like you, the company will be a mess. There is no cohesive team. Why do we expect others to cooperate with us? This is a recording. Hongshen was extremely disappointed. He directly held the phone with pale eyes and played the previous cooperation conversation. Zhu Xian's eyes showed a trace of panic, and he subconsciously wanted to grab it. Fortunately, Hongshen reacted in time and avoided it, and did not let him succeed. Manager Zhu has been restless these days. He was very talkative before. Hongshen's eyes were a little mocking. If Zhu Xian hadn't pressed step by step, he wouldn't have done things to this extent. Originally, he didn't want to take out the recording. Lu Canshuang showed a hint of hesitation on her face, and then her eyes swept between the two, repeatedly, and fell on Zhu Xian, gradually becoming firm. Frost covered her cheeks. It's just some conversations, and they were secretly recorded without the permission of others. Does manager want to use these as evidence? I understand. After listening to this, Hongshen turned off the recording and put the phone in his pocket. He didn't dwell on this matter. Lu Canshuang's attitude made him understand that even if he could really produce enough evidence today, Zhu Xian would still not be dealt with. Lu Canshuang, who was in a high position, wanted to protect someone, and no matter how much evidence he had, it would be pale and powerless. Mr. Lu, I'm glad that your company has provided me with the opportunity to exercise and learn how to improve myself. During this time in the company, I have been very happy with my colleagues. Since you think that the responsibility lies with me, then the fault this time is all my fault. I will leave the company and give Mr. Lu an explanation. Hongshen bowed slightly, not to express respect to Lu Canshuang, but to draw a line with the company. From now on, he will no longer be bound by the company. A chance to peek into a wider world. Of course, I hope that Mr. Lu can withdraw the punishment and not let the old employees who have worked together for many years feel disappointed. How about just letting the 3 million yuan go? Hongshen did not forget Lao Chen. The friendship of many years made him mention it more before leaving, and he planned to do what he could for Lao Chen. Is deputy manager he going to take it all on his own? Zhu Xian did not miss the opportunity to tease. Hongshen glanced at him. For Zhu Xian's behavior, he could only think of 4 words: jumping clown. The guy who survived by relying on Lu Canshuang's breath was somewhat confused and a little too proud. Before, he might have given her a beating. Thinking of what Lu Canshuang had done, he sighed in his heart. It would be better to let himself go and not continue to endure the torture. The company has no regulations that require compensation for failed contracts. If Mr. Lu does not intend to cancel, then we will go through legal procedures. The project had a chance to be negotiated, but because of what you did, it has become like this. Don't you need to be responsible? Lu Canshuang sneered. At the same time, he looked at Zhu Xian softly, his eyes full of love. The two flirted in front of Hongshen without any concealment. Mr. Lu means that the contract can be negotiated. Hongshen's mouth curled slightly. Zhu Xian was a little panicked for no reason. He always felt that Hongshen had a backhand. Thinking carefully, he had already explained everything to Mr. Jiang. In addition, Hongshen had left a bad impression in front of Mr. Jiang before. It can be said that Hongshen had no chance of reaching an agreement. So, he gave a reply before Lu Canshuang: if you can reach an agreement, it is not impossible to cancel the fine. Lu Canshuang nodded in agreement. Not only will the fine be cancelled, but the company will also make compensation of the same price in the form of bonuses. Mr. Lu, remember what you said now. Hongshen looked down at the watch on his wrist. It's almost time. Lu Canshuang was a little confused. Just as she was about to ask a question, she received a call. As the call was connected, her face changed again and again. After hanging up the phone, she looked at Hongshen with a complicated expression. The cooperation has been completed. The other party asked you to take time to sign the contract. Impossible. Zhu Xian was the first to react, with a look of disbelief on his face. As long as you are attentive, there is nothing you can't do. Hongshen raised the corners of his mouth, and a smile of victory appeared. How could he not know the dealings between Mr. Jiang and Zhu Xian? He simply bypassed Mr. Jiang and went directly to the other party's senior management to finalize the cooperation. Mr. Lu, remember what you said. Hongshen turned and left, not forgetting to throw out a reminder. Only Lu Canshuang and Zhu Xian were left standing there, with shock and confusion on their faces. Chapter 12. Hongshen walked out of the company, exhaled a breath of turbid air, opened his arms, and felt the wind blowing in his face. He had never felt a sense of ease and comfort before. Everything that happened in the office seemed to have found an outlet for the suppressed emotions in these days, and poured out all at once. As for the contract, he was not too anxious. Before getting on the car, he sent a message to Lao Chen. The compensation issue has been resolved, wait for the project bonus. Thank you. Hongshen received a reply, a short sentence, but it made him smile comfortably. Colleagues who have worked together for many years all know how to be grateful. But Lu Canshuang, who has been together for many years, still abandoned him mercilessly. At that moment, he looked like a red-nosed clown on stage. His past actions were just for fun. Hongshen had a sneer on his face, and his eyes were full of mockery. He had already left the company and would resign soon, so why was he still thinking about these things? The wedding house was sold, and he and Lu Canshuang were over. Why add to the trouble? He Hongshen returned to the hotel where he lived. Just as he lay down, he received a message from Lu Canshuang. Employees are prohibited from leaving their posts during work hours. Manager He, please do not challenge the company's bottom line. We are discussing cooperation, please do not disturb. He Hongshen edited the good news, sent it, and threw the phone aside. He didn't want to stay in the company and watch Zhu Xian bossing him around. He was afraid that he couldn't help but raise his fist and hit him again. Anyway, he was about to leave, and he didn't have any other projects to do. It didn't matter whether he stayed in the company or not. After He Hongshen turned off the silent mode on his phone, he fell asleep comfortably. When he woke up, the room was dark. He fumbled for his phone, found the bedside table, turned on the light switch, connected the phone to the charger, and started to check the messages. Among the dense messages, he did not catch a glimpse of Lu Canshuang's name. Sure enough, after the showdown, the other party simply stopped pretending. Before, at least he would have said a few perfunctory words. He Hongshen smiled bitterly and clicked on the message. Brother Hongshen, I picked some clothes. I wonder if you have time now. Is Brother Hongshen not here? Question bunny.jpg. Is Brother Hongshen working overtime? There are many messages, almost one every 10 minutes. Calculating the time, Li Qingshu has sent more than a dozen messages since he got off work. Compared with Lu Canshuang's indifference, these seemingly self-talking whispers made He Hongshen feel warm in his heart. It turns out that he is not cared for. He Hongshen did not explain. He and Li Qingshu were not close friends. There was no need to share things about life for the time being. Avoid making Li Qingshu unhappy. Brother Hongshen, you finally replied to my message. Looking forward to it.jpg. Looking at the cute bunny emoji with shining eyes on the screen, He Hongshen's smile gradually became irresistible. He seemed to have found the feeling of being in love. Compared with Lu Canshuang's indifference and perfunctory, it was warmer and sweeter. Brother Hongshen, is it convenient for you to answer the phone? Li Qingshu continued to send messages. He Hongshen was a little stunned. He didn't understand why Li Qingshu made such a request. Logically speaking, they shouldn't meet first. Did the other party plan to video chat with him first to see the changes over the years? If he was not satisfied, he would refuse sooner or later. Even though He Hongshen was somewhat confident in his appearance, he was still a little hesitant in his heart. He didn't want to lose the happiness he had finally obtained. Li Qingshu gave him the feeling of being approachable, even particularly considerate, knowing how to take his thoughts into account, and considering all aspects for him. This is what made him hesitant. Worried that he would not be able to live the way Li Qingshu remembered, and thus gradually alienated. Do you want to start a video? He Hongshen typed out a line of text nervously. If Brother Hongshen wants to start, then wait for me for half an hour, I will go to clean up. Now this look is a bit sloppy, it is not convenient to see Brother Hongshen. Li Qingshu did not refuse. No need to bother, let's talk about it when we have time, I will go to find a Bluetooth headset. He Hongshen happened to have some concerns, so he went with the flow and did not continue to mention this matter. I'll wait for you. Happy.jpg. He Hongshen scanned the message on the screen with a complicated expression. After not seeing each other for many years, Li Qingshu seemed to have not grown up and was lively and cheerful, while he had been dyed beyond recognition by the big divat of society, and gradually could not find his former self. After staring at the screen for an unknown amount of time, He Hongshen came back to his senses. He just remembered what he promised Li Qingshu. He hurriedly picked up the Bluetooth headset from the bedside table, connected it, and dialed the number with a nervous heart. The phone didn't ring for long before it was connected, and a crisp sound like a silver bell came from the headset. Brother Hongshen. There was a hint of playfulness in the delicate voice. He. It's me. He Hongshen's throat rolled, and the little kid who followed him at the beginning appeared in his mind. The boy rode a bamboo horse and played with green plums around the bed. Living together in Chong'anli, the two children had no suspicion. Li Qingshu recited 2 lines of poetry, which just hit the soft spot in He Hongshen's heart. The past scenes emerged one by one. What do you want to talk to me about? After a long time, he came back to his senses and asked. The memories were too beautiful, making him indulge too much, and he almost couldn't break free. If it weren't for the intermittent exhalation in the headset, he might not have been able to come back to his senses. Regarding the clothing, I have selected some styles. I am afraid that I can't explain it clearly by typing. Thinking that I haven't seen Brother Hongshen for a long time, I want to introduce it and hear your voice at the same time. Li Qingshu did not hide it. Obviously, in the love between men and women, it is often the boys who take the initiative, but Li Qingshu doesn't seem to have this concern. Thank you for your hard work. He Hongshen couldn't help but sigh. If Lu Canshuang could do this, why would their relationship become like this? However, he would not repeat the same mistakes and let Li Qingshu be ignored. Respect is mutual. As for Lu Canshuang, he just thought he was blind. Brother Hongshen, how about this one? Li Qingshu's words brought He Hongshen back to his thoughts. Before he could speak, he heard Li Qingshu's endless introduction. The gentle voice was delicate and tender like a little girl, and the knowledgeable and experienced seemed like a different person. Although the voice had not changed, the temperament seemed to be different. Brother Hongshen, sometimes I can't help but be serious. If Brother Hongshen doesn't like it, I will slowly correct it in the future. Li Qingshu finished his story and made an embarrassed excuse. Keep your style, don't change for others. He Hongshen thought of himself 3 years ago. Lu Canshuang said that he didn't like this or that, and he never hesitated, and would change according to the other party's preferences. But what he got in return was extreme disappointment. He didn't want Li Qingshu to become like him. He lost his cheerfulness and liveliness, and his shoulders were crushed by life. Seeing that He Hongshen didn't dislike it, Li Qingshu continued to tell the story. The introduction of each piece of clothing was comprehensive, and there was almost no place that was overlooked. It can be seen that he spent a lot of effort. Just when He Hongshen was listening attentively, the phone rang. Glancing at the screen, He Hongshen frowned. Chapter 13. Lu Canshuang's call. Why is she calling at this hour? He Hongshen frowned, hesitated for a moment, and then hung up. During non-working hours, employees can refuse their boss's overtime request. During working hours, he didn't want to go back to the company. After get off work, even if Lu Canshuang gave him triple overtime pay, he would not go back. What's more, Li Qingshu hasn't hung up the phone yet. Brother Hongshen, what do you think of my suggestion just now? Li Qingshu's words were filled with some expectation. He Hongshen looked a little embarrassed. The ringing tone of the phone just now masked Li Qingshu's voice, and he really didn't hear clearly what was said. But he was too embarrassed to ask Li Qingshu to repeat it, as if he did, the other party would probably feel disappointed. Sorry, I just received a call and didn't hear it clearly. However, I think we don't need to spend too much on clothes. Clothes that cost tens of thousands are enough, but there is no need to spend hundreds of thousands or millions. He Hongshen did not intend to deceive Li Qingshu and chose to tell the truth. As for how Li Qingshu would react, he would accept it no matter what. Brother Hongshen, we will only be married once, and I don't want him to have any regrets. Even if I have to pay more, I want to give him the best experience. Li Qingshu didn't care, but emphasized seriously. Best experience? A familiar sentence. I still remember that he also said this when he was with Lu Canshuang. Ms. Lu, as long as it is what you want, even if it is the stars in the sky, I will pick them and give them to you. Today, when he thinks back to his past self, he realizes how ridiculous he was. The spare tire should be aware of this and take the initiative to give up the position of the main wife. He was too naive, thinking that he could impress Lu Canshuang as long as he persisted. The reality was like a heavy hammer to He Hongshen, making him wake up. He's just a stand-in. When the real owner came back, he was as poor as a dogtail grass on the roadside that no one cared about. Is it worth doing this? He Hongshen showed a bitter smile on his face, as if he was asking Li Qingshu, or as if he was asking himself many years ago. As long as I can make Brother Hongshen happy, all this is worth it. Li Qingshu answered cheerfully. He Hongshen felt that Li Qingshu was becoming more and more like himself back then. He never considered Lu Canshuang's abnormality and kept hypnotizing himself in his heart that as long as he could make Lu Canshuang happy, it would be worth it. But in the end, it turned out that his idea was wrong. Where is Li Qingshu? If I hadn't met him, I would probably have made the same mistake again. Then let's do our best to arrange this wedding. He Hongshen had too much empathy, and he gradually became concerned about wedding matters from his previous indifference. Howl. Li Qingshu responded happily. He Hongshen stared at the clothes on the screen, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, a smile reflected on the reflective screen. At this moment, he felt very good. Before he could continue speaking, the phone rang at an inopportune time. It was Lu Canshuang who called again. Is the other party done yet? He has clearly rejected me, so why is he calling me again? Hongshen rubbed his aching brow and felt very troubled by Lu Canshuang. The joy in my heart was completely washed away by the ringing phone, without leaving any trace. He put his finger on the hang-up button again and clicked it. Let's stop here for today. Thank you for taking care of the wedding. I'll help you with the arrangements after I finish my work here. Hongshen was a little annoyed by the phone call. He didn't want to bring negative emotions to Li Qingshu, so he planned to end the call. Brother Hongshen, don't worry. Leave the wedding to me. Work is more important. Li Qingshu responded calmly without any dissatisfaction. Hongshen felt a little guilty. The gentle Li Qingshu was becoming more and more like him before. Although he was trying hard to change, he couldn't get rid of Lu Canshuang's shadow for a while. Unless he can completely resolve the relationship between the two. After saying good night to each other, Hongshen hung up the phone and stared at the chat history on the screen in a daze. His fingers slid from time to time, clicking on the pictures of the clothes and looking at them again and again. It can be seen that they are all high-end styles and Li Qingshu has taken a fancy to them. If the person proposing to him was Li Qingshu, they should have been married by now, right? Hongshen couldn't help but fantasize. Wrong. Soon, he realized that he was taking it for granted. What if Li Qingshu also has a white moonlight? Although they were childhood sweethearts, not seeing each other for many years did not mean that they still understood each other. For example, Li Qingshu's voice sounded very different from before. There isn't much change in personality though. Hongshen, who had experienced the Lu Canshuang incident, was somewhat resistant to Bai Yueguang. He even wondered, if he also had a white moonlight, would it be Lu Canshuang or Li Qingshu? When faced with this question before, he almost decisively chose Lu Canshuang. But now, he hesitated. Between Li Qingshu and Lu Canshuang, especially when he thought of the intimacy Lu Canshuang had shown Bai Yueguang, he felt a little resistance in his heart. Hong took a deep breath and continued to think about the previous question. If he really had to choose between the two, he would most likely choose. When Hongshen was about to give an answer, the phone rang again. Hongshen frowned, realizing the abnormality of the situation. Lu Canshuang called him once or twice, probably wanting him to go back and work overtime. But 3 phone calls don't necessarily mean overtime. This means that Lu Canshuang is likely to be in trouble. This is the last time. Hongshen warned himself in his heart. Then he couldn't help but laugh at himself. Hongshen, you are such a bitch. Yes, his relationship with Lu Canshuang had obviously reached a freezing point, almost to the point of being exposed, but he was still concerned about her and worried that Lu Canshuang was in danger. No wonder he could be a bootlicker for 3 years. He just can't change his bad habits. He is really hopeless. After the self-mockery, Hongshen answered the phone. His tone was cold. Boss Lu called me in the middle of the night. Do you have any work to arrange? It hurts, it hurts. There was a rustling sound from the other end of the phone, accompanied by weak groans. Hongshen, save me. It was Lu Canshuang's voice, and she sounded in a bad condition. Under normal circumstances, Hongshen might have panicked, but now he has already let it go. His face was calm, and his heart was not disturbed at all. If Mr. Lu feels uncomfortable, call Zhu Xian. You cared so much about him before, and it's time for him to repay you. He doesn't want to become Zhang Wuyan. When there is something going on, Zhang Wuyan performs. When there is nothing going on, Xie Yingchun performs. Why doesn't he have a share of good things? Why is he the first person that comes to mind when something like this happens? What do you think he is? A cow or horse, who comes when called and leaves when dismissed? Chapter 14. Hongshen waited for a long time but received no reply. There were some chaotic sounds coming from the other end of the phone. His sarcastic smile disappeared and his expression suddenly became serious. Could something really have happened? Wait for me. Hongshen didn't dare to hang up the phone. He put on a coat and left the hotel. After getting the taxi, he gave the address and kept an eye on the phone. I couldn't help feeling a little anxious. At this moment, he even hoped that Lu Canshuang was joking with him. He would rather be that clown than let anything happen to Lu Canshuang. It's not that he still misses their previous friendship, but he is afraid that if something happens to Lu Canshuang, he will not get the bonus, and after he leaves, he will inevitably continue to quarrel with the company. He doesn't have so much free time. There were a lot of vehicles on the road at night, but the driver had good driving skills and kept overtaking, so he still delivered the car quickly. After paying the money, Hongshen didn't even ask for change. He ran to his former residence, found the spare key under the carpet, opened the door, and jogged all the way to the bedroom. Looking at Lu Canshuang with a distorted face, one hand hanging by the bed, the phone fell to the ground, still on a call. The other party did not seem to be asleep, but rather fainted due to excessive and unbearable pain. It seems that a similar situation has happened before. Hongshen murmured, walked over to hang up the phone, carried Lu Canshuang on his back, ran out of the house, and ran into the driver who was walking towards him. "Master, let's go to the nearest hospital." Without waiting for the driver to speak, Hongshen stated his request. "Young man, your girlfriend is sick, shouldn't you live with her and take care of her? Why do you have to stay in a hotel? Are you having a fight? Love is actually like this." The driver started chattering non-stop, still overtaking steadily without any collision. Listening to the string of words, Hongshen did not refute. It's not that he didn't want to, but he just couldn't find a chance to speak. The driver talked very quickly, making it difficult for him to find a chance to interrupt. Fortunately, we arrived at the hospital soon. Hongshen finally ended Urgenzi's torture. After paying the fee, he ran into the hospital carrying Lu Canshuang on his back, found an emergency doctor, found a ward for her, and made a diagnosis. "Are you a relative of the patient?" When the doctor appeared again, he had a diagnosis in his hand. Yes. Hongshen had no choice but to accept this identity. He planned to understand the situation first. If it was not serious, he would notify Juxian to come over. If the incident had not happened suddenly and he was worried that Lu Canshuang's life was in danger, he would not have bothered to do this. He didn't want to do this kind of thankless task at all. The patient suffers from sudden acute appendicitis. There are currently two solutions, one is intravenous drip, and the other is surgery. The former has the risk of recurrence, while the latter is a permanent solution. Can you make a decision, or notify her parents? The man in the white coat cast a glance and said a series of words. Acute appendicitis. How did Lu Canshuang get this disease? He still has some understanding of this disease. It is mainly caused by factors such as irregular work and rest and diet. Under his care, Lu Canshuang had basically no shortage of meals. Logically, this shouldn't be the case, right? Forget it, who cares? What does it have to do with him whether the other person is dead or alive? When Juxian arrives, I'm afraid he will become a foil again. Wait until she wakes up and let her make the decision. Hongshen did not make a decision to avoid being bitten by his kindness. Although he was not afraid of trouble, it was still a bit annoying to be bitten by a dog suddenly. At the very least, in a legal society, he cannot beat the dog to death that bit people. In that case, let's wait for the patient to make a decision. The doctor simply handed over the examination report and turned to leave. The door of the ward closed again. Hongshen pulled over a chair and sat beside the bed, watching the bottle to make sure the medicine in the bottle was empty and not replaced in time. He propped up his chin and looked at the bed. Before, Lu Canshuang had been feeling unwell, and he ran around to buy medicine for her, kept the doctor's instructions in mind, cooked porridge for her, and took good care of her. He remembered one time, there was a strong wind and heavy rain, and Lu Canshuang suddenly felt unwell. The family had run out of medicine, so he wore a raincoat and tied bricks to his legs. He walked in the wind and rain for several hours and found a hospital. After much persuasion, he got the doctor to write a prescription and get the medicine. Then he placed it on his chest and went back in the wind and rain. Lu Canshuang's condition improved after taking the medicine, but due to being in the rain for a long time and the strong wind, he caught a cold and fell ill. During this time, Lu Canshuang bought some medicine and left in disgust. He never came back. He went to boil water and take medicine, feeling the heavy weight of lead and a severe headache. He accidentally fell and broke several cups. Wait until his condition improves and go to work in the company. The moment I learned that my salary had been deducted, my heart sank to the bottom. He went to see Lu Canshuang and asked about this matter, but the answer he got was that she didn't want the company to find out about their relationship, and since he was unable to apply for leave on his own, there was no way for her to ask for leave on his behalf. He expressed his understanding. Now that I think about it, he understood nothing. It only took Lu Canshuang a word as the president of the company, and the reason he got sick was not because of her. But she didn't take it seriously and even deducted her attendance bonus and absentee salary. Why didn't I see it before? Hongshen raised a bitter smile, realizing that his past was very similar to the Joker legend. He felt that the circus would be more suitable for him. After all, the circus lacked clowns to make the audience laugh, and whether he wore a red nose or not, or had a funny costume or not, he was almost the same as a clown. Hongshen stayed up until late at night, and only when the injection was finished did he sit on a chair, lean on the edge of the bed, and take a nap. Get up. In a daze, Hongshen felt someone slapping him on the face. He slowly opened his sleepy eyes and saw Zhu Xian, the person he least wanted to see. The other person put his hands on his hips and asked in an accusatory manner, "If you don't want to come, you don't have to come. Can't you insist on waiting for me to come before you go to sleep?" Hongshen then remembered that he had notified Zhu Xian using Lu Canshuang's phone yesterday. I guess Zhu Xian slept very soundly last night and only saw the message now. Why, are you a little disappointed that Lu Canshuang didn't think of you first last night? Hongshen cast a scrutinizing look at her, not hiding the teasing on his lips. Zhu Xian felt uncomfortable being stared at. He felt that Hongshen regarded him as a clown on stage. He said impatiently, "You are obviously her boyfriend. Isn't it normal for her to think of you?" TSK. Hongshen sneered, "That was before, it's not the case anymore now. Are you going to quit?" Zhu Xian was a little surprised, then said proudly, "I didn't expect you to still be a coward in love. It's up to you. I'll go back and catch up on my sleep." Hongshen waved his hand, not caring. With Zhu Xian around, he is destined to become a thing of the past, and this is an unchangeable result. Chapter 15. Hongshen left their hospital, took a taxi back to their hotel, and got a good sleep. After waking up, I went to the company and picked up the contract. Manager thank you. As the escort, Lao Chen naturally couldn't be left behind. While waiting for the bus, Lao Chen did not forget to express his gratitude. The company's rules are inherently unreasonable. I just eliminated them through formal means. No need to thank me. Hongshen didn't take it too seriously. As a long-time employee of the company and given their personal relationship, Lao Chen deserves this. No, if it weren't for your help, I might have already appeared on the company rooftop right now. Old Chen patted his chest with lingering fear, a trace of loneliness in his eyes. That's 3 million. I worked so hard for so many years and only saved a small amount. In order to protect my family from being affected, the only thing I can think of is. Old Chen clenched his fists and said with a deep sense of powerlessness, "When a person dies, his debts are cancelled." These 4 words seemed to exhaust all his strength. 3 million is enough to overwhelm most employees. We all come out to work like beasts of burden and shoulder the burden of life. Any inadvertent debt may become the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Hongshen was filled with emotion. Just as he was about to say a few words of comfort, a car stopped in front of him. He could only pat Lao Chen on the shoulder and give him encouragement. When Hongshen appeared in the conference room again, 2 annoying figures were missing from the negotiation table. One is Zhu Xian, who should still be attentive in the hospital. The second is General Jiang. When he rushed over, he saw the other party's executives and directly threw out the evidence. If nothing unexpected happened, President Jiang would most likely have packed up and left. Your company is full of sincerity and we look forward to a pleasant cooperation. Without the troublemakers, the contract signing process went extremely smoothly. When walking out of the meeting room, Lao Chen's face was filled with joy. I didn't expect it to be so easy. The previous CEO Jiang was very demanding. If I didn't do something right, he would be dissatisfied. I was very nervous for a long time and the negotiation almost broke down. According to the agreement, this contract has a bonus of 1 million, which we will split equally. Hongshen was not at all stingy when facing Lao Chen, with whom he had worked for many years. Anyway, no matter how much money he has, it is meaningless to him. It is better to give more to Lao Chen. No, I haven't made much contribution, so a share of it will be fine. Old Chen was a little frightened and waved his hands to refuse. We'll talk about these things after the bonus arrives. Hongshen understood that no matter how much he said at the moment, it would all be empty promises. The most important thing was to get Lu Canshuang's nod. Otherwise, the finance department won't transfer the money readily. At present, Lu Canshuang is still in the hospital and it is estimated that it will take 2 days to get the vaccine. Manager He, shall we go back to the company now? Old Chen held the contract with a smile on his face. You go back, I still have some things to deal with. He Hongshen made an excuse to shirk. Even though Lu Canshuang was in the hospital, he didn't want to go back. After all, Zhu Xian might come back, and if he saw him then, there would inevitably be some arguments again. He felt helpless and speechless towards Lu Canshuang. He could only watch the other person being a humiliator and couldn't do anything. The feeling of powerlessness really made him want to swear. Manager He, are you really going to resign? Old Chen hesitated for a moment and asked the questions hidden in his heart. He Hongshen nodded. Since President Lu regards my years of hard work as nothing, I might as well leave early to avoid a series of troubles later. Maybe I will be transferred to deputy manager today and become a team leader the day after tomorrow. One day, maybe even the company's cleaning staff will have a higher position than me. He Hongshen smiled self-deprecatingly. Chapter 16. Old Chen fell silent for a long time, then silently sent his blessing. No matter where manager He goes, I wish you a successful career and a high position in the corporate world. Lao Chen did not express his loyalty and just said that we should go through this together. He Hongshen also knew that it was not realistic at all, so he did not force it. After saying goodbye to Lao Chen, He Hongshen returned to their hotel. I ordered lunch, waited for it to be delivered by the hotel, and finished with a few drinks. Started taking a nap. He found that after losing Lu Canshuang, his life became more comfortable. It was a great feeling not to have to revolve around someone. He Hongshen, who was having a sweet dream, was awakened by a phone call. Hongshen, can you come and stay with me? Lu Canshuang expressed her request as soon as the call was connected, like a lonely girl, enduring the wind and frost alone. He Hongshen shook off the messy thoughts in his mind and gradually became more conscious. Where's Zhu Xian? When he came back in the morning, Zhu Xian was also in the ward. Did he leave immediately? Wow, that's really considerate. The company has something to deal with, so he's going back temporarily. Lu Canshuang paused slightly, unable to conceal her disappointment in her words. It's not convenient for me at the moment. You can hire a caregiver. He Hongshen didn't intend to continue talking. Since he had made up his mind to separate, he didn't want to keep in touch. What if the old love rekindled? Is he worthy of Li Qingshu? Since Lu Canshuang doesn't care about him, there's no need for him to be too humble. Hongshen, remember when I was sick before, you cooked porridge for me. I want to drink it again. Lu Canshuang choked. It is said that if the ex cries, the current one will lose. Lu Canshuang's sobbing made He Hongshen a little flustered and really caught him off guard. After being together for many years, he rarely saw Lu Canshuang cry. The other party often has unhappiness written on her face, waiting for him to coax her, or throw a tantrum, and he will just keep comforting her in a gentle voice, coaxing her with soft words, and trying to please her in various ways. Hongshen, I promise I won't cry. Can you cook a bowl of porridge for me? Lu Canshuang's words gradually became normal, without any crying tone. He Hongshen frowned, vaguely aware that something was wrong, but for the moment, he was too confused to think and could only nod in agreement. Hongshen, I know that you love me the most. Without waiting for He Hongshen to respond, the other end hung up the phone in such a hurry that He Hongshen swallowed back the subsequent words that were about to come out of his mouth. Just consider it as a debt owed to me before. He comforted himself, took a taxi to leave their hotel, returned to his former residence, walked into the kitchen, and started to get busy. Half an hour later, he walked out of his residence carrying the thermos bucket and took a taxi to the hospital. When He Hongshen arrived at the hospital, the first thing he did was to find a nurse for Lu Canshuang. Then he handed over the thermos and gave him a few instructions. After careful consideration, he thought it would be better not to meet. This way, it would not be awkward for both him and Lu Canshuang. As for Zhu, there was a nurse there, and even if she couldn't move, the nurse would take care of it. After walking out of the hospital, He Hongshen's brows were still furrowed, and he was thinking about what the patient had discussed before. Nurses abuse patients. Is Lu Canshuang okay? No, he should go back and take a look. If something happens to Lu Canshuang, the bonus issue will probably have to be postponed indefinitely. Having made up his mind, He Hongshen turned back. Chapter 17. Be careful, it's hot, drink slowly. Hongshen stood outside the ward. Through the glass on the door, I saw Lu Canshuang leaning on the bed, blowing the porridge on the spoon to cool it down, and then bringing it to Zhu Xian's mouth. Zhu Xian looked very happy, smacking his lips as he commented, "The taste is a little bland, it should be better if you add some ingredients." "I'm sorry, my cooking skills disappoint you." Hongshen pushed the door open, with an apologetic smile on his face and deep disappointment in his eyes. Lu Canshuang knew clearly that he hated lying the most. In order to get Zhu Xian to drink the porridge, he even resorted to lying to him. "My heart has become numb and I can no longer feel the pain." He even regretted pushing the door open. After all, they were having a sweet and intimate interaction, and it seemed inappropriate for him to suddenly show up and interrupt them. Although, he is still Lu Canshuang's nominal boyfriend. But this is no different from being a general who has been sidelined, just a false title. All that Lu Canshuang did for Zhu Xian, she had never done for him. "Hongshen, not long after I hung up the phone with you, Zhu Xian happened to come to see me. The nurse brought me the porridge you cooked. Zhu Xian said he was hungry, so I gave it to him first. He will go buy me other food for dinner later." There was a flash of panic in Lu Canshuang's eyes, and she wanted to explain the matter clearly. "Zhu Xian didn't care, why explain to him? He clearly knew that you were sick and in the hospital, but he still cooked you plain porridge. It's just water and has no nutrition. If it were me, I would be too embarrassed to bring it to you." At this point, Zhu Xian sneered and said, "I think he knows it too, so he asked the nurse to deliver it." "Then why don't you tell me why I came here again?" Hongshen had a calm expression with a smile on his lips. Zhu Xian grumbled in dissatisfaction, "Who knows what you are thinking? You came here without even bringing a gift. Shouldn't you bring a fruit basket when visiting a patient?" Hongshen clenched his fists and looked at Zhu Xian with a sneer in his heart. He was really good at talking, and with just a few words he took out the porridge he brought. If he had known this would happen, he shouldn't have done such a shameful thing. It's really stupid. What does it have to do with him whether Lu Canshuang is crying or laughing? What he should care more about is Li Qingshu's feelings. Maybe he came in a hurry and didn't have time to prepare. Lu Canshuang acted as a peacemaker. Hongshen was a little surprised. Could it be that Lu Canshuang had changed her personality? Why are you suddenly speaking up for him? Have you seen Zhu Xian's true face? Thinking back to the scene he had witnessed, Hongshen rejected this speculation without hesitation. If Lu Canshuang really knew Zhu Xian's true face, she would not have fed him porridge with her own hands. The two of them looked so affectionate, as if they were enjoying their own world. If it weren't for him, a man who doesn't know the current situation, who came in and broke the atmosphere. Yes, he is superfluous. When Hongshen thought of this, his eyes were full of self-mockery. Making exceptions one after another and being soft-hearted did not result in Lu Canshuang changing his mind, but instead in repeated critical hits. Every move by the other party pushed him away a little. Now, although they seem to be only a few steps apart, they are actually worlds apart. "Hongshen, you haven't changed. You never take to heart what I said." Lu Canshuang's sigh interrupted Hongshen's thoughts. Her words completely shattered the last bit of hope in Hongshen's heart. Chapter 18. He seemed to see the sarcasm and contempt in Zhu Xian's eyes, laughing at his self-conceit and his unawareness of his own abilities. He felt like a puppet, being toyed with by Lu Canshuang again and again. Until you completely give up. It was at this moment that he let it go. "Sorry, my memory is bad." Hongshen smiled and picked up the thermos bucket. "Since you don't like it, I'll pour it out so as not to affect your appetite. You are quite self-aware." Zhu Xian did not forget to tease him, and shook his head in disappointment. "It's just that your judgment is not very good. No wonder the cooperation almost fell through before." Hongshen was not affected at all. Instead, he continued to pack up the thermos bucket. After he was done, he turned around and left. At the end, he did not forget to say, "I forgot to say that the contract has been signed. I am just waiting for Mr. Lu to approve the bonus and agree to my resignation application." After saying that, he left without looking back. "Since you are so disheartened, don't look back." He kept reminding himself that if he looked back he would be a dog. Perhaps in Zhu Xian's eyes, he is now no different from a stray dog. After leaving the hospital, he found a trash can on the side of the road and threw the thermos into it. Regardless of whether he has misophobia or not, he doesn't want to touch anything that Zhu Xian has used. Just treat it as a complete break with his past self. It's time to leave. The matter of the house was settled, and he now had found a place to stay. Hongshen planned to go back and pack up, move out completely, get out of Lu Canshuang's life, and not cause trouble for her. This is probably the self-cultivation of an excellent bootlicker. Know when to advance and when to retreat. After returning to his residence, Hongshen packed 2 suitcases and looked at the remaining items. That pink desk lamp was one he had bought before. When he turned on the light at night, a sea of pink flowers would appear, full of romance. It was just because Lu Canshuang happened to see the video at that time and expressed his feelings casually. She said she wanted a romantic vibe, too. In addition, there are crystal balls with snowmen hidden in them, lamp paintings that look completely different when lit up, lipsticks, and cosmetics, not to mention all kinds of small gadgets that fill the home that once belonged to them. His fingertips brushed over each item, and the corresponding memories emerged in his mind. A hint of reluctance flashed in his eyes, and he made the decision to let go with a painful look on his face. He didn't know how Lu Canshuang would deal with these, whether to throw them away as garbage or keep them as memories. However, these are no longer important. Apart from clothes, he only took some daily necessities. It was not that he could not afford them, but he just didn't want them to be used by others. He didn't want Zhu Xian to sit on the sofa, drinking water from his couple's cup with a look of disgust. He didn't want Zhu Xian to lie on his pillow and mutter, "What rubbish." In short, he was trying his best to erase the traces left here. When he saw a photo hanging on the wall, Hongshen stopped. The photo shows a silhouette standing in front of a lotus pond. The setting sun in the distance dyed half the sky red, and the afterglow was reflected in the water. This rare beauty was captured by him after he had spent a lot of effort and asked Lu Canshuang for help for a long time. He also kept an electronic version of it, photoshopped his back into it, as a photo of the two of them, and kept it in his mobile phone album. Since we have to say goodbye to the past, let's do it thoroughly. Hongshen fumbled for his cell phone and deleted the photos with trembling fingers. Then he pulled his suitcase and walked around his former home, looking back every step. When I walked out the door, the sky darkened. The moonlight poured down, as if paving a road. Goodbye, bootlicker of the past 3 years. He stepped forward resolutely and bid farewell to the past completely. Chapter 19. 2 days passed quietly, and Hongshen tossed and turned in his bed in the hotel. In the past 2 days, he seemed to be isolated from the world. Since he moved out, no one cared about him. The company did not call him to go to work, and Lu Canshuang did not call to ask where he was. Apart from chatting with Li Qingshu on the microphone every night to discuss wedding details, Hongshen can be said to be living an extremely comfortable life. I can't sleep. Hongshen, who was undisturbed, could still get enough sleep even if he chatted until midnight. This resulted in him suffering from insomnia. It turns out that the biological clock is sometimes more useful than an alarm clock. The alarm clock can't wake you up, but your biological clock can. Hongshen originally planned to take a nap, but he couldn't sleep. He couldn't help but think about the bonus. He confirmed again and again through text messages, but the bonus had not yet arrived. Could it be that Lu Canshuang was going to default on the debt? Under normal circumstances, Lu Canshuang would not do such a thing, but as long as Zhu Xian whispered in her ear, the probability of such a thing happening would increase infinitely. Make the impossible possible. Let's wait and see. If the money hasn't arrived tomorrow morning, go to the company. Having experienced too many disappointments, Hongshen instinctively felt a little resistant to Lu Canshuang and didn't want to have more contact with her. Otherwise, he would have gone to the company's finance department to collect his bonus the day after he moved out of his former wedding house, and it wouldn't have been delayed until now with no result. Hongshen planned to continue waiting and passively complete this task. When he was about to turn over and go to sleep, the ringing of the phone shattered his beautiful dream that had not yet formed, waking him up instantly. What's the matter? Hongshen asked calmly. He just glanced at the screen and saw that it was a call from Lu Canshuang. I thought I had a couple of days of peace and quiet, but I didn't expect I couldn't stand it anymore. I just don't know what kind of trouble will come out this time. Will she lie to him again for Zhu Xian? It doesn't matter whether it's a lie or not. He is no longer the same person he was before. No matter how Lu Canshuang pretends to be aggrieved and tries to gain sympathy, he will no longer be soft-hearted. The reason why he answered the phone was not because he was worried that Lu Canshuang had encountered an unexpected accident, but because he wanted to see what the other party was going to do this time and what kind of fun it could bring. Since the bonus is a huge amount, the finance department needs your signature. Come over if you have time. Okay, I'll go there now. Hongshen was a little surprised. Although he didn't want to face Lu Canshuang, he would not go against money. After putting on his coat and getting dressed a little, Hongshen took a taxi to the company. First they found Lao Chen, and then the two of them took the elevator to the floor where the finance office was located. With this bonus, I can make my family live a better life. In the elevator car, Lao Chen clenched his fists, his expression so excited that he could hardly control himself. Hongshen's face was calm, and there was no trace of emotion in his eyes. Let's wait until we get it before we figure out what to do with it. It's not that the company hasn't given out bonuses in the past. Bonuses of tens or even hundreds of millions are usually directly deposited into the department's account and handled by the department manager. This time it may be because he and Lao Chen joined hands, so it is a personal reward and has little to do with the group, so the process is a bit complicated. However, past experiences have made Hongshen always feel that it is not so easy to get the bonus. Chapter 20. I hope I'm overthinking it. Hongshen finished thinking, shook his head, and walked out of the elevator with a ding sound. Knock on the door of the finance office. Come in. A response came from inside. Hongshen pushed the door open and came straight to the point. Hello, we are here to sign and receive the project bonus. He had rarely come into contact with the people in the finance department in real life, and both salary and bonus were paid out through bank transfers, so he was not very familiar with them and simply skipped the unnecessary greetings. Old Chen was standing by with a smile on his face. The financial officer in charge of bonus processing is a middle-aged woman wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a well-fitting suit. She sits at her desk, moving the mouse with her left hand. Name. Without even raising his head, a voice came from inside. Hongshen and Lao Chen reported the information in turn, drew two chairs, and sat there waiting. There was more than one person in the finance office, and they could not walk around casually and disturb others' work. After the middle-aged woman finished her operation, she raised her head and adjusted her glasses. Your bonus has been sent to the department account and is being handled by the department manager. It is no longer under my jurisdiction. Okay, thank you for your help. Hongshen pulled Lao Chen up and left. After closing the door, he first used words to comfort Lao Chen. Let him return to work, then go into the office alone and confront Zhu Xian. Didn't I tell you to knock before entering the office? Zhu Xian heard the noise and thought it was an employee who forgot the rules. Until he looked up and saw Hongshen, he looked a little surprised. Why are you here? Manager Zhu seems to be living a comfortable life. Hongshen glanced at the office environment, which was already filled with some high-end luxurious furniture and supplies. It was a completely different level compared to what he had used before. Lu Canshuang was really willing to do so. You are no match for Deputy Manager He. Everyone in the company is busy working on projects, but you are on a leisurely vacation. You're not seen for 3 days or 2. I don't know where you are having fun. Zhu Xian lay on the office chair, turning gently. He looked comfortable, as if he didn't care about Hongshen. Hongshen didn't care and ignored Zhu Xian's sarcasm. There is a bonus transfer in the department account, which was agreed by President Lu before. Manager Zhu shouldn't take it all for himself, right? Zhu Xian seemed to be on edge. A certain word made him become stressed and he jumped up from his chair. How dare you, Deputy Manager He, say that? When the company needs you the most, you can't be seen. Isn't it normal for the company to punish you for absence? Even if I want to keep it all for myself, what can Deputy Manager He do to me? Zhu Xian said what he was thinking with a sneer on his face, completely nonchalant. According to company regulations, the penalty for absence is to deduct that day's salary. Project bonuses are shared by project participants and are not included in the calculation. Hongshen was too lazy to argue with Zhu Xian and directly cited the company regulations. If the other party refuses to repent, the worst that can happen is that he will take legal action. Deputy Manager He. Zhu Xian's expression suddenly became serious. Please remember that this department is now owned by the Zhu family. The rules are naturally set by me. The company's rules do not apply to me. Aren't you afraid that I will secretly record the video and send it to President Lu? Hongshen was a little surprised. Zhu Xian used to put on a show, but why is he too lazy to even put on a show now? Something is wrong. 8 out of 10 things are wrong. Of course. Zhu Xian suddenly changed the subject. We are all from the same department, and you and I are on the same level. We can discuss everything. It's not impossible for me to turn a blind eye, but. Chapter 21. Zhu Xian let out a long breath, like a stuck tape, and for a long while, there was no further news. He took a deep breath and said, Manager Zhu, time is precious to us. If you have anything to say, just say it directly. His intuition told him that Zhu Xian was up to no good. But he had no choice. The bonus was withheld, and without sufficient evidence, if he brought the case to Lu Canshuang, it would probably end in nothing. He could only continue to fight with Zhu Xian to see what the other party was planning and what he was up to. Deputy Manager do you still remember the previous project? Zhu Xian sat back in his chair and poured a cup of tea from the teapot beside him. The projects have been processed and the handover has been completed. What do you want to say, Manager Zhu? Hongshen's face was calm. He had submitted his resignation application before, and after being rejected, he completed the unfinished projects on hand. According to the agreement, he has now successfully resigned. If it weren't for the bonus, he really didn't want to see Zhu Xian. If there is a problem with the project that deputy manager he is in charge of, shouldn't he do a good job of after-sales service? Zhu Xian sipped his tea and looked at Hongshen with scrutiny. Hongshen realized the problem. Strictly speaking, he was more than 90% sure that there would be no problems with the project, especially the contract. He had put in a lot of effort to learn the tricks and knowledge in this area. Avoiding the traps of text and hidden contracts is almost easy. What's more, he personally reviewed every contract and printed them all, just to prevent anyone with ulterior motives from taking advantage of the situation. In order to ensure that there are no mistakes, he will confirm repeatedly before signing. As for the projects, they are basically projects where the risks and benefits are proportional. There won't be too much risk, and there won't be any major problems with their partners, so as not to be implicated. After checking everything in his mind one by one and determining that there would be no problem, Hongshen no longer took Zhu Xian's words to heart. They didn't get along in the first place, and he hardly came to the company in the past few days, so Zhu Xian had every chance to do something and stir up some trouble. Could it be that Manager Zhu has forgotten the previous agreement? According to the agreement, I have already resigned. Besides, nothing went wrong when those contracts were in my hands. Why did something go wrong when they were in Manager Zhu's hands? Hongshen had a smile on his face, and did not avoid Zhu Xian's scrutiny at all. After making sure there would be no problems with the contract, he looked over at Zhu Xian, and their eyes collided with each other, neither of them giving in. The company has not approved your resignation. It is entirely your personal wish. There is a problem with the project now. If deputy manager wants to resign, he must first properly resolve the problems on the project. Zhu Xian took a firm attitude and did not back down at all. Even unilaterally tore up the agreement. Then there's nothing to talk about. Hongshen was helpless about this. He shouldn't have believed Zhu Xian's lies before, but this didn't mean that he was in a passive situation. Handle the project crisis well, and any request from deputy manager will be approved by me. Zhu Xian continued to threaten him. Hongshen turned and left. Manager Zhu, please be careful when you walk at night. You dare to hit me? Zhu Xian asked with a sneer. Hongshen turned his head and looked at him meaningfully. If you do too many bad things, it's not safe to walk on the road at night. After saying that, Hongshen left the office. Under Lao Chen's worried gaze, he calmed down. Take the elevator to the president's office. He wants to ask Lu Canshuang for an explanation. I have clearly already resigned, so why am I still being held back and not getting my bonus? Chapter 22. When has the company ever been so slow before? Could it be that Lu Canshuang really didn't even follow the most basic bottom line for Zhu Xian? Mr. Lu, regarding my resignation application. Hongshen pushed the door open and went straight to the point. Why, do you regret it? Lu Canshuang stopped what he was doing and showed some mockery in his expression. Then he continued, in view of your determination to resign, we have expedited the process for you. The moment you complete the project, you will no longer have anything to do with the company. Lu Canshuang paused and said, however, the company promised that your bonus will not be reduced. If you have nothing to do now, you can leave. This was the first time he had seen Lu Canshuang since he left. The other person's eyes were as if he was looking at a stranger, with impatience written on his face without any concealment. "Thank you, Mr. Lu, for your answer." Hongshen's face was calm, and there was not a ripple in his heart. He chose to say goodbye to the past and no longer thought about rekindling the old love. Immersed in love, he felt the importance of being cared for by Li Qingshu. It turns out that there are times when he is needed. In fact, he didn't want much, he just wanted a response for everything. However, Lu Canshuang could not give him such a simple request before. Shaking off the chaotic thoughts in his mind, Hongshen suddenly remembered the important matter. "Boss Lu said earlier that I only needed to come to the company to sign, so why did the finance department tell me that the bonus would be paid to the department account and handed over to the department manager for arrangement?" Lu Canshuang's eyes showed a hint of surprise. "Is that true? Maybe the finance department was negligent. In that case, why don't you go to the department and ask the department manager to transfer the money to you? There's no need to disturb my work for such a small matter. If it's nothing, just leave quickly." Lu Canshuang ordered them to leave. "I'm too lazy to even respond with words." "Mr. Lu, have you forgotten who the department manager is?" Hongshen pretended not to hear. If he left before his goal was achieved, the bonus might really be gone without any follow-up. Zhu Xian relied on Lu Canshuang's breath and deliberately deceived him. Maybe Zhu Xian had never thought that he would directly confront Lu Canshuang. After a few questions and answers, he also noticed the problem. Why didn't he receive any notification from the finance department or any bonus even though he had already resigned? Was it Lu Canshuang's instruction or was it Zhu Xian's personal behavior? It felt weird, but he couldn't tell what went wrong. "The department manager is Zhu Xian. I appointed him personally. What's wrong?" Lu Canshuang looked a little puzzled. "Mr. Lu, don't you know that Manager Zhu and I don't get along? If I let him handle this matter, it will be difficult for me to get the bonus back." Seeing that Lu Canshuang pretended to be confused even though she knew the truth, Hongshen simply said it directly. "If we let Lu Canshuang continue practicing Tai Chi, we might end up talking until we are exhausted but nothing will be achieved. I already know the details. I'll call you later. Do you have any other questions?" Lu Canshuang's expression calmed down and she gave him an inquiring look. "No more." Hongshen shook his head. "Anyway, I've already resigned, so just take the bonus and leave. No matter what Zhu Xian's thoughts are." Lu Canshuang finished the call quickly, and her expression changed slightly. "If you want the bonus, clean up the mess you left behind." Chapter 23. Hongshen was stunned for a moment, and it took him a long time to come back to his senses. "I want to know what Zhu Xian said to you." "You don't have to worry about it. As long as you solve the remaining problems of the project, you can take the money and leave at any time." Lu Canshuang looked like she didn't want to say more. "According to Mr. Lu and the company's regulations, I am already in the process of leaving the company, and anything that happens in the company has nothing to do with me." Hongshen once again cited the company's rules. Lu Canshuang hates people who don't follow the rules the most, and she is strict with herself, so she shouldn't be like Zhu Xian who doesn't take the company rules seriously. "That's right according to the regulations, but your resignation application has been suppressed by the department manager and has not yet been passed to the human resources department. You are still employed." Lu Canshuang's eyes moved slightly, and he slowly began to speak. Hongshen was not angry. He just looked up and glanced at Lu Canshuang, with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. The company stipulates that if an employee voluntarily resigns and his application is approved, no one may force him to stay for any reason. For Zhu Xian, Lu Canshuang no longer cares about these things. "Boss Lu, there were no problems with those projects when I was in charge. Now that the handover has been completed, even if there are problems, the person who took over should be responsible. Moreover, Manager Zhu suppressed my resignation application, which seems to have violated company regulations. When a project is handed over and any hidden dangers arise, the current person in charge will be held responsible. This is almost an implicit rule in the company." The reason why he remembered it so clearly was that he had experienced it personally during his climb up. "At that time, I was competing with another colleague for the position of supervisor. He was already at a disadvantage and had lost all hope when his supervisor called him and asked him what he thought. At that time, he didn't understand why his supervisor valued him, and he didn't want to be accused of using a backdoor, which would make Lu Canshuang lose face, so he refused righteously. It means that you will get promoted based on your ability. Afterwards, that colleague took over the supervisor position. Not long after, it was revealed that there were problems with the project that the former supervisor was in charge of. Forced to become a scapegoat. Later, he replaced that colleague and took the position of supervisor. He learned the implicit rules from other supervisors and always kept them in mind to ensure that he would not encounter similar things. If you want a bonus, then obey the company's arrangements. Lu Canshuang spoke firmly, without any trace of past kindness. I understand. Hongshen sighed, turned and left. I will get back everything I have gained through legal means. Since the company is unwilling to handle it properly, I will take legal action. He wanted to make Zhu Xian understand that even if he had Lu Canshuang as his backer, he was not the only one who had the final say in the company and could not let him do whatever he wanted. Stop! Lu Canshuang called him from behind. Hongshen stopped and stopped closing the door. Boss Lu, do you have any other instructions? If you are willing to come back, I will give you a satisfactory answer regarding the bonus. Lu Canshuang offered the chips. Go back. Hongshen turned around and looked puzzled. Does Mr. Lu mean to continue to sit in the position of deputy manager and allow Zhu Xian to humiliate me? He dared to guarantee that as long as he nodded, the bonus might be received, but his future life would become more difficult, especially if he wanted to resign again. He was afraid that Zhu Xian would use various things to threaten him. Come back to me. Lu Canshuang had a complicated expression. Hongshen, Zhu Xian and I are just good friends. In fact, it's you who I can't let go of. Mr. Lu, have you ever heard a saying? Hongshen did not empathize with him. The moment he was completely heartbroken, there was no going back. This was the choice he made, and he also didn't want to let Li Qingshu down. What? Lu Canshuang was a little surprised. It's too late to mend the fence after the sheep have been lost. Hongshen slowly uttered 8 words with an indifferent look. Since Mr. Lu doesn't like my company, why bother yourself? It's better to let go completely, so that you can pursue your own happiness, which is good for both you and me. Chapter 24. After saying that, he turned and left without hesitation or looking back. Even if there were low sobs coming from behind. If I had known this would happen, I would not have done it in the first place. Hongshen was in mixed mood. He took the elevator back to the first floor and walked out of the company. While waiting for the bus, I sent a message to Lao Chen to calm him down. Of course, we can't just let the bonus issue go like this. He will definitely give Lao Chen a complete explanation. After returning to the hotel, Hongshen took a shower first. It can be considered to get rid of the bad luck on your body. Hongshen walked out wrapped in a bath towel, not even wanting to review what had happened in his mind. Zhu Xian and Lu Canshuang made him feel unlucky. Only now did he understand that if you truly like someone, there can be no bottom line. The fact that Lu Canshuang had restrained him in the first place already made the problem clear. Brother Hongshen, good evening. Hongshen heard the special message notification tone, collected his thoughts, and hurriedly fetched his cell phone. In the past few days, without the trouble of Lu Canshuang, his relationship with Li Qingshu quickly heated up, and they even finalized the details of the wedding. All that was left was for him to get the bonus and rush over to get married. Qingshu, good evening. Hongshen had a sweet smile on his face. Is Hongshen brother available to answer the phone? Wait for me to find the headphones. Hongshen was busy and put on his Bluetooth headphones. Make a call. Brother Hongshen, I'm really looking forward to the day when I wear my wedding dress. Li Qingshu's joy came through the receiver. I'm looking forward to it too. Hongshen nodded in agreement. He never thought that after years of love, the person he would eventually marry was his childhood sweetheart. It wasn't Lu Canshuang who had been with him for 3 years. How long will it take Brother Hongshen to finish his work? Li Qingshu spoke with anticipation. Hongshen thought back to what happened today. It will probably take some time. If legal proceedings are to be taken in the end, it will take at least a month to resolve. He really wanted to rush over and meet Li Qingshu, but the issue of the bonus still needed to be dealt with. Even if it wasn't for old Chen, he didn't want to let Zhu Xian get away with it. Brother Hongshen, do you need help? Li Qingshu was very considerate. You can't help me with company matters. Hongshen refused without hesitation. He didn't want to involve Li Qingshu. With Lu Canshuang and Zhu Xian scheming, they would probably be able to trick Li Qingshu. This was the girl he wanted to spend the rest of his life with, and he couldn't let her suffer any grievances. According to what Brother Hongshen said before, you have already resigned, and the only thing missing is the bonus. Is the bonus stuck? Li Qingshu made his guess. Hongshen was a little surprised. He didn't expect Li Qingshu to guess so accurately. If he hadn't known that Li Qingshu was busy with her wedding, he would have thought that she had quietly come to his city and was secretly watching him in the dark. Chapter 25. It's okay, I'll take care of it. Hongshen still didn't plan to let Li Qingshu get involved. Okay, if Brother Hongshen needs help, just let me know. Li Qingshu did not continue to pester her. The two talked a lot about marriage. Time passed unknowingly and it was late at night. Hongshen hung up the phone reluctantly. He and Li Qingshu can only contact each other by phone at present. If he wants to meet, he must deal with the follow-up matters of the company. Whether it is the resignation application or the bonus, Zhu Xian must give an explanation. Hongshen was about to put away his phone and fall asleep when a special reminder sounded. He picked up his phone to check. Li Qingshu sent a business card, but unfortunately the other party hid his information, so he could only judge that the other party was a male based on his name and profile picture. Does Li Qingshu also have a white moonlight? An absurd thought suddenly popped up in Hongshen's mind. Without waiting for him to ask, Li Qingshu took the initiative to send a message. Xiao Qin is a top-ranked lawyer. If Brother Hongshen needs to sue, he can go to him. Got it, go to bed quickly. Hongshen felt relieved. After learning that she was not Li Qingshu's white moonlight, he calmly added her as a friend. Maybe it was because it was late at night and I didn't wait to apply. Hongshen put his phone aside and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next day, I saw a few more messages on my phone. In addition to Li Qingshu's good morning greetings, Xiao Qin's message was also mixed in. The message sent by the other party was brief and to the point, and was about a business quotation. Hongshen found the service he wanted. We would like to entrust you to investigate the situation of Zhu Xian, the project manager of Lu Group. Please name a price. He had already prepared for a lawsuit, but he didn't expect that Xiao Qin was also working as a private detective. It just so happened that Zhu Xian and Lu Canshuang's abnormal behavior made him feel that something was wrong. If relevant clues could be found, perhaps Li Qingshu wouldn't have to wait too long. After paying the deposit, tell the other party where they are located and we will give you the result within 3 days. Hongshen was not worried that the other party was a scammer and paid the deposit readily. After leaving the city information, put down the phone. In the days that followed, Hongshen received several calls about Lu Canshuang. The other party asked him when he would return to work, but Hongshen always found excuses to reject the calls. Just like that, 3 days passed quietly. Hongshen opened his eyes and washed up. I just remembered that I seem to have made an agreement with Xiao Qin. He looked up the other person's friends. What happened? The target's past information has been sent to your account mailbox. The decompression password will be sent synchronously after the final payment is received. Hongshen didn't think the other party would cheat him, so he paid the balance without hesitation. Then he opened the mailbox of the account that had not been cleaned for a long time, found the encrypted email, and entered the number given by the other party. He then got a file with extremely large memory. Click to view. After spending about half an hour to digest the information, Hongshen finally understood why Zhu Xian was so abnormal. Chapter 26. So that's how it is. A smile appeared on his lips. It is no exaggeration to say that with these contents, Zhu Xian had no choice but to compromise. As expected of professionals, they handled the matter quickly. Hongshen hummed a little tune, walked out of the hotel, hailed a car and went to the company, going straight to Zhu Xian's office. Manager Zhu, how are the loopholes in the project being handled? Hongshen said with a faint smile on his face. Isn't this waiting for Deputy Manager He to handle it personally? You are such a busy man that I haven't seen you in these days. Zhu Xian teased. Hongshen did not respond. He pulled down the bay window with his backhand. After confirming that the office was well shielded, he spoke. As far as I know, while Mr. Lu was in the hospital, Manager Zhu was eager to achieve success and wanted to show off his achievements. He signed a long-term agreement with the other party without showing the finished product. Zhu Xian had been sitting on the chair in a somewhat nonchalant manner, turning left and right, carelessly, as if he didn't take Hongshen seriously. After he heard this, he stopped, pulled out a tissue from the tissue box on the table, and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. There was a flash of panic in his eyes. It doesn't make sense. Obviously only a few people knew about this. Hongshen had never been to the company, so how did he know about it? I did that for the benefit of the company. Zhu Xian wasn't sure how much Hongshen knew, but he planned to stick to it. As long as he refuses to admit it, he will not be implicated. Manager Zhu, do you think that if you refuse to admit it, it means you didn't do it? Hongshen seemed to have seen through his thoughts, and the smile in his eyes became more and more obvious. Zhu Xian's heart skipped a beat as he watched this, and he felt uneasy. Even if I caused losses to the company, it was Canshuang who was held responsible. What does it have to do with you? Manager Zhu, are you sure you have caused losses to the company? Hongshen had a strange look in his eyes. According to the information, it was really a miracle that Zhu Xian could still sit here. He didn't think that the partner was too kind. He might have bigger ambitions, and his target was not just Zhu Xian, but the Lu group. Only in this way can we explain why the other side remains inactive. Isn't it? Zhu Xian was also stunned. Didn't Hongshen bring up the contract because he caused losses to the company? Manager Zhu, didn't you read the contract carefully? Hongshen looked as if he understood. He had a rough idea of what Zhu Xian was thinking. It might be that he lacked experience in this area and fell into the other party's trap. Anyone with a discerning eye can see the risks behind the huge profits. All we can say is that Zhu Xian was fearless and daring enough to sign the contract. What do you mean? Zhu Xian was completely panicked and lost his confidence. He always felt that Hongshen had bad intentions, especially the contract mentioned earlier. Hongshen seemed to have not yet made the key point clear. Manager Zhu should have a contract in hand, right? Hongshen was confident and well prepared, not afraid at all. All he has to do now is watch the fun. Let Zhu Xian die with a clear mind. Don't think that just because you are promoted to a position, you have the corresponding ability. The water in some industries is so deep that it can drown people. Zhu Xian took out the contract and began to carefully examine it. The more he looked at it, the more cold sweat he felt on his forehead. Impossible. It's obviously just a mistake in the cooperation. How could this happen? He had withheld the bonus before because he wanted the experienced Hongshen to handle it and thus create a considerable amount of performance for the company. But now, after carefully reading the contents of the contract, he found that some details had been slightly changed. Not only will the company not make any profit, but it will also suffer huge losses. After Zhu Xian carefully read the contract, his face turned pale, as if he had lost his energy. Chapter 27. It's okay, Canshuang will help me solve it. After a moment, Zhu Xian came back to his senses, his eyes lit up again, as if he had found his backbone. As for compensation, Mr. Lu can help you fill the gap, but what if there is a problem with the other party's product? Hongshen spoke slowly. Zhu Xian lost his composure on his face and tried hard to hide the panic in his eyes, but failed. What do you mean? Manager Zhu understood it immediately. Hongshen looked down at his watch and smiled without saying anything. Zhu Xian was frightened by his action. Hongshen had done the same thing before, and soon after, they were slapped in the face. What will be waiting for him this time? Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. Please come in. Hongshen looked at the dazed Zhu Xian and answered for him. The door opened and two policemen walked in. Zhu Xian, you are suspected of funding a smuggling gang. Please come back with us for investigation. The police walked over, handcuffed Zhu Xian, and escorted him away. In this way, I should be able to make the decision on the bonus issue. Hongshen walked to the computer and started operating it. This is thanks to Zhu Xian, who suppressed his resignation application, resulting in his authority remaining and being able to operate department accounts and distribute bonuses. After completing these, he found the resignation application that Zhu Xian had placed at the foot of the table and went to the Human Resources Department to submit it. After that, I received my salary and prepared to leave. Before I even entered the elevator, the phone rang. It's Lu Canshuang calling. The bonus has been received and the resignation application has been submitted. He has nothing to do with the Lu group anymore. Hongshen hung up without hesitation. I guess Lu Canshuang has already known the news that Zhu Xian was taken away. I have to say that Zhu Xian is really brave. He dares to cooperate with the other party without conducting a thorough investigation. Smuggling is illegal in itself, not to mention that he is the nominal sponsor. TSK. All I can say is it's all my own fault. He Hongshen returned to their hotel contentedly, sat on the sofa, took out his mobile phone, and prepared to buy a plane ticket to go back for the appointment. However, there were constant messages from the top, all sent by Lu Canshuang. He Hongshen looked at the obstructed top and sighed helplessly. Click in and prepare to block the other party. After glancing at the contents of a few of the messages, his eyes darkened. He dialed Lu Canshuang's number with an expressionless face. Hongshen, you are the only one who can help me now. Lu Canshuang cried on the other end of the phone. Zhu Xian is already an adult and should pay for the mistakes he made. He Hongshen said indifferently, without any emotion. The contents of the messages just now made him completely understand that Lu Canshuang would never change her mind. Even if she really did, it would only be to help Zhu Xian, not to love him. He was deceived. Lu Canshuang couldn't wait to explain. He was introduced by others and thought he could benefit the company, so he did it. It was not intentional. Chapter 28. And then? He Hongshen had a calm expression, quietly waiting for what happened next. He was waiting for Lu Canshuang to convert the text message into voice, so that he could tell the other party directly and make Lu Canshuang give up the idea completely. Can you help him? Lu Canshuang asked after a moment of silence. He Hongshen was amused. How can I help? You can disregard the company's rules for him, but as a law-abiding citizen, I can't possibly break the law for him. Besides, I don't have the ability to jailbreak and rescue him. Zhu Xian was involved with a smuggling gang. According to Xiao Qin's analysis, his conviction was a foregone conclusion. Even Xiao Qin, a top-notch lawyer, could not overturn his case when there was sufficient evidence. The other party specifically emphasized these points in the information, seemingly just to reassure him. He Hongshen thought of what Zhu Xian had done before and the analysis Xiao Qin had made in the materials, and couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth with a bit of mockery. Sometimes excessive indulgence may not necessarily lead to good results. For example, for him, Mr. Lu ignored the company's rules and lowered his own bottom line. As a result, it only hurt him. It's obviously your fault. Lu Canshuang choked up. If you took the initiative to take over the project, how could Zhu Xian get in? People with different ideals cannot work together. Mr. Lu, since you are still stubborn, I have nothing to say. He Hongshen had foreseen this scene as early as when he saw the text message. After it actually happened, he still couldn't help feeling lost in his heart. Lu Canshuang really lost her bottom line and even her sanity for Zhu Xian. If the target was him, Lu Canshuang shouldn't have such a big reaction, right? After all, a bootlicker can never replace the white moonlight. Even though Zhu Xian had already been sent in, Lu Canshuang was still trying to find a way to rescue him, which was really touching. Unfortunately, if Lu Canshuang hadn't set her sights on him, he might have applauded her for her loyalty to her feelings. But there are not so many ifs. The past is over, and his fate with Lu Canshuang ended long ago. Hongshen, you always agreed to whatever I asked for before. Can you agree to it one last time? Lu Canshuang had a strong attitude, and the sobbing sound disappeared without her noticing. Stars, moon, whatever you want, I'll give you. He Hongshen recalled the previous promise. It's too late. He shook his head. When I gave it to you before, you didn't want it. Now you want it, but I don't want to give it to you anymore. So let's just leave it at that, Mr. Lu. Let's not have a falling out. He Hongshen, where do you think you got everything you want? If I hadn't secretly been looking after you, how could you have gotten the position of manager? Do you know how much I have given for you? Lu Canshuang was not satisfied with the outcome and kept questioning him. Everything, one by one, did not match what He Hongshen remembered. Lu Canshuang, that's enough. He Hongshen scolded with a cold expression. You know whether you have helped me before, don't let me completely tear my face apart and leave in a bad mood. It seems that after this incident, he may have to completely cut off his connection with Lu Canshuang. Sure enough, the ex cannot stay on the list and has no chance to become friends. In order to make Li Qingshu feel at ease, and for my own peace of mind and freedom from disturbance, let Lu Canshuang completely become a part of my memories. You yelled at me. Lu Canshuang seemed to have suffered great injustice. You actually yelled at me. You've never lost your temper with me before. Don't you understand yet? We can't go back. He Hongshen had a complicated expression. Speaking of which, he also has to thank Zhu Xian. If he hadn't appeared, he might have missed his chance. He Hongshen, I hate you. Lu Canshuang hung up the phone. Then just hate it. Anyway, he won't do anything stupid again. After all, there are people waiting for him in the distance. Hongshen found the option to delete friends, removed Lu Canshuang from the friends list, and blocked her phone number. Afterwards, he seemed to have lost all his strength and collapsed on the sofa. Chapter 29. The next morning. Sir, the plane is about to take off. Please put away your phone and turn on airplane mode. I'm here to see you. After typing the message, Hongshen cooperated by turning on the airplane mode and putting his phone in his pocket. Lean back in your seat, close your eyes and rest. After he and Lu Canshuang had completely broken up, he went to his hometown to hold the wedding as planned. As his future partner, he chose not to hide it from Li Qingshu. The two chatted a lot and looked forward to meeting each other. More than 2 hours later, the plane landed. After getting off the plane, Hongshen walked out of the exit carrying his suitcase and looked around. He took it out from time to confirm the news. Li Qingshu said she would pick him up at the airport today, and was waiting for him outside the departure gate. She also sent him a photo. Based on his previous location, Hongshen locked the direction and saw the girl squeezed in the corner among the crowd of people waiting to pick up the plane. She had a petite figure and was holding her cell phone high. The 3 words, Hongshen, are flowing on it. Li Qingshu. Hongshen walked over with his suitcase and took a closer look at the girl. It seemed as if time had not made any mark on Li Qingshu's body. Her face was still youthful, and one could vaguely see her childhood appearance, but it had grown wider. Brother Hongshen. The girl was timid and didn't dare to recognize him. Hongshen handed the phone to the girl and asked her to look through the chat history and confirm the messages. Brother Hongshen, you have changed a lot over the years. After confirming that it was correct, Li Qingshu became much more intimate. He took Hongshen's arm and even wanted to take his suitcase. He was stopped by Hongshen. Then he stopped a car and told the address. Got off the bus safely. Li Qingshu stood at the door, hesitant. Even though she had already planned the wedding and had met Hongshen's parents, this was the first time she was brought back by Hongshen. She stood there awkwardly, holding the corner of her clothes with both hands. Are you feeling unwell? Hongshen showed concern and tested the temperature of Li Qingshu's forehead with the back of his hand. When he found nothing unusual, he breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Hongshen. Li Qingshu called softly, I just didn't expect that we would meet our parents so soon. I'm a little uncomfortable. What's there to be uncomfortable with? Hongshen looked a little puzzled. Haven't you already seen all the details of organizing a wedding? It's different. Li Qingshu's cheeks flushed, and it took him a long time to utter a word. Hongshen still couldn't understand, but he didn't delve too much into it. He held Li Qingshu's fingers tightly, walked into the house and met his parents. His father and mother were quite enthusiastic. They grabbed Li Qingshu's hand, called her daughter-in-law one after another, and asked about wedding matters. Seeing that he couldn't get a word in, Hongshen went back to his room to clean up. Afterwards, they were called out for dinner, and the parents of both parties met formally. Hongshen did not skimp and chose a more upscale hotel. The parents of both parties sat next to each other, while Li Qingshu and Hongshen sat opposite each other, enduring the scrutiny. There were no unexpected events as expected, and everything went smoothly. The parents of both sides toasted each other, finalized the date, and asked about the wedding matters. Li Qingshu answered in a skillful and steady manner, leaving Hongshen alone, holding the wine glass, tasting the red wine and smiling bitterly. He felt like a superfluous character. On their way back, both parents agreed to take a walk and left first. Since the place was not far from their residence, Hongshen did not take a taxi but walked with Li Qingshu. The moonlight fell on the sidewalk, casting mottled shadows through the branches and leaves. It looks like a bright spot on the floor tiles, and Li Qingshu would occasionally step on it. Qingshu, I have liked someone in the past 3 years. A cool breeze blew past him, his drunkenness faded away, and Hongshen began to reveal his true feelings. Chapter 30. Along the way, he was mostly talking and Li Qingshu was listening. It didn't end until we returned to our residence. The next day, Hongshen's drunkenness dissipated. He covered his aching head and went to the bathroom to wash his face. After washing, incomplete fragments emerged in his mind. His heart skipped a beat and he picked up his phone to explain to Li Qingshu. When I turned on my phone, I saw a message from Li Qingshu and more than a dozen missed calls. The past is gone with the wind. Brother Hongshen, I don't care who you have loved before, as long as the person in your heart right now is me. These simple words moved Hongshen so much that his eyes were wet. He had fantasized many times about meeting someone who understood him. I had previously mistakenly thought it was Lu Canshuang and had been a bootlicker for her for 3 years. It was not until this moment that he understood that although unrequited love and mutual affection seemed to be not much different, in fact, there was a world of difference between them. I will love you forever. Hongshen quickly responded. He got up late in the first place, and was afraid that his reply would be too late and cause Li Qingshu to misunderstand him. Brother Hongshen is such a lazy bum. After receiving the reply, Hongshen did not become unhappy because of being scolded, but instead had a silly smile on his face. Afterwards, Hongshen temporarily ended the chat and called back. The call was from a former partner, who was once a major client of the Lu Group. During the period when he was in charge of the connection, the other party had praised his abilities more than once and had extended an olive branch several times. At that time, Hongshen was concerned about Lu Canshuang and had no intention of leaving the Lu Group, so he declined the other party's offers one after another. Even if the price offered by the other party is twice as high as that of the Lu Group. He still hadn't wavered in his heart. I don't know where the other party got the news from, but he knew about his resignation and sent him an invitation again. Hongshen considered that he would have to shoulder the burden of life after marriage, and he and Lu Canshuang had no contact, so he simply agreed. But when he heard that he was going abroad, he was a little hesitant and planned to communicate with Li Qingshu. After hanging up the phone, Hongshen went out as promised. The wedding was still 2 days away, so he and Li Qingshu made an appointment to take advantage of these 2 days of free time to walk around and get familiar with the customs and culture of their hometown. Hongshen held Li Qingshu's hand and strolled along the river. Due to the constant erosion of the river, a sloping embankment has been built here. You can vaguely see some brave children playing on it. It brought back Hongshen's childhood memories. Remember when you were a kid, you were almost kidnapped by human traffickers by the river. Brother Hongshen, I actually have always had a question. Li Qingshu gave him an inquiring look. Hongshen's figure was reflected in the black glass-like eyes. Hidden full of love. Why did you dare to rush to save me? Aren't you afraid that you would be taken away by the traffickers? A kid wouldn't think so much. I just saw you crying and thought you were being bullied, so I rushed over. Hongshen answered calmly. After saying that, he stared straight at Li Qingshu. Let's not talk about the past. I'm unsure about something here. Can you help me make a decision? Brother Hongshen, just speak up. Li Qingshu nodded in response. Hongshen informed everyone of the previous phone calls. Wherever Brother Hongshen goes, I will go. I will always be with you. Li Qingshu leaned on Hongshen's shoulder, her words full of sweetness. Hongshen smiled happily when he heard the voice. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? Chapter 31. The wedding went on as planned. Guests and friends gathered together. The process is also rather complicated. However, it did not miss the time. At that auspicious moment, Father Li held Li Qingshu's hand, walked in from the church door, walked across the red carpet, and handed Li Qingshu's hand to Hongshen. I'll leave Qingshu in your care from now on. After stepping down from the stage, Father Li wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Hongshen grabbed Li Qingshu's hand and looked at her affectionately. The childhood sweethearts, after going through countless hardships, finally got together. At that time, Hongshen never thought that the so-called children's words could be turned into a promise. Li Qingshu once said, "When I grow up, I will marry you." Now it has become a reality. Mr. Hongshen, are you willing to? Hongshen just felt that this speech was too long, and he couldn't wait to blurt out those 3 words. I do. Hongshen waited for the speech to end and blurted out. The image of Li Qingshu in her white wedding dress was reflected in her eyes, with nothing else included. This is a landscape that belongs only to him. I am willing to do so too. Li Qingshu also gave his answer after a long wait. Then the two exchanged rings, hugged and kissed each other. There was warm applause from the audience. Hongshen suddenly woke up from his dream and looked at the familiar room. There was no sign of marriage at all, it was as if he was dreaming. A very real dream. It was a dream. Hongshen murmured. Everything that happened before was still vivid in his mind, even particularly clear. It didn't seem like a dream at all. But there was no sign of wedding decoration in the room, which brought him back to reality and told him that it was all a dream. The wedding hasn't started yet. Brother Hongshen, what's wrong? A sleepy voice sounded beside him. Only then did Hongshen realize that there was someone lying next to him. From the messy hair, it can be confirmed that it is Li Qingshu. Qingshu, why are you here? Hongshen was a little surprised. You can't live together before marriage. This is the rule in my hometown. Did he drink too much? Hongshen's mind exploded and his head ached slightly. Some fragments of memory emerged. For a moment, he couldn't tell whether it was a dream or reality. Brother Hongshen, you and I are already married. I am homeless now. Are you going to chase me away? Li Qingshu gave him a pitiful look. Like a little animal thrown on the roadside, no one cares about it. The bridal room is not decorated. Hongshen reacted. It seems that what happened before was not a dream. Maybe he drank too much later and his memory became confused, making him mistakenly think that it was just a dream. Before, I asked Brother Hongshen to choose the wedding ceremony, but he hadn't made up his mind. I thought that since we are only getting married once, we might as well combine Chinese and Western styles and have 2 weddings at once. The first time, all the relatives and friends will be present, and the second time, just the parents of both sides will simply go through the motions. Li Qingshu explained. Hongshen had never encountered this kind of operation before. After being stunned for a moment, he finally accepted the information. Chapter 32. I thought I just had a dream. Hongshen scratched his head, feeling a little at a loss. Li Qingshu rolled his eyes and said, Brother Hongshen knows that our family tradition is quite strict. This kind of cohabitation before marriage is not allowed. If I dare to mess around, my family will beat me to death. Hongshen was indeed worried about this before. Even though they had already confirmed their relationship, they could not do anything presumptuous before the wedding. Although the wedding will go on normally, there will be some unnecessary trouble. Qingshu, when is our second wedding? Hongshen reviewed the memories in his mind but could not find any relevant information. It starts at dawn. Li Qingshu changed from lying down to leaning forward, with his head resting on Hongshen's shoulder, looking very happy. It's daybreak. Hongshen murmured and told stories from the past. During this time, Li Qingshu would occasionally chime in. Hongshen talked about a lot of childhood memories. When he stopped and prepared to drink a glass of water, he found that Li Qingshu had fallen asleep without him noticing. He carefully moved Li Qingshu's head off his shoulders, hugged Li Qingshu, laid her flat, and covered her with a quilt considerately. 3 years of companionship were met with indifference, but the childhood joke came true today. For him, Lu Canshuang and Li Qingshu were no longer a choice. The days to come will get better and better. Hongshen smiled and looked forward to the future. The Chinese wedding went on as scheduled. The moment Li Qingshu, wearing a phoenix crown and a red veil, walked in, Hongshen took the initiative to grab his hand and took him to worship heaven and earth. After completing the ceremony, send back to the room. Hongshen lifted the veil and saw that Li Qingshu's face looked like a ripe apple. He joked, this red apple is growing well. I can't wait to take a bite of it. I'm not ready yet. Li Qingshu lowered his head, his voice weak and feeble. Some things don't require preparation. Hongshen threw Li Qingshu to the ground. 3 days later, outside the airport. If you are not satisfied with your work when you are abroad, remember to come back early and take good care of Qingshu. Don't let him suffer any grievances. His father and mother said goodbye to him. Li Qingshu's parents were there too, also with tears in their eyes. Overseas is different from China, the environment is more chaotic, try not to walk at night, and be careful when traveling. Qingshu, if Hongshen bullies you, remember to call us and wait for him to come back and let us handle it. His father and mother looked doting, as if they were looking at their own daughter. Hongshen was also somewhat touched when he heard what the parents of both sides said. In fact, he could choose to stay, but doing so would not necessarily bring Li Qingshu a better life. Besides, Li Qingshu supported him to go abroad, so why not give it a try? To build a better future, at least we must not let Li Qingshu suffer any injustice. Dad, Mom, don't worry, I will take good care of Qingshu. Even if I give up my job, I will not let her suffer any grievances. Hongshen made the promise. If you don't work, how are you going to maintain your life and raise your children? Are you going to be a parasite? His father and mother scolded. If it really doesn't work out, just come back. The savings at home are enough for you and Qingshu to have no worries about food and drink for the rest of your life. Li Qingshu's parents did not blame him, but instead left a way out for He Hongshen in advance. He Hongshen was somewhat moved and immediately decided to work harder. He took Li Qingshu's hand, said goodbye to both sets of parents, and walked into the boarding gate. Brother Hongshen, if you get wronged at work, remember to tell me. We can come back and I can support you. Li Qingshu lowered his voice and whispered. He Hongshen smiled but said nothing. After boarding the plane with Li Qingshu, he looked at the scenery outside the window. And Li Qingshu's profile. As the plane took off, the scenery changed. He left his homeland. He suddenly remembered a sentence, "One day, I will come back with glory." Goodbye, hometown. Chapter 33. 3 years later, Dingxing Group Branch. At the conference table, Lu Canshuang was waiting anxiously. This contract is extremely important, so important that she has to come in person. I just heard that the partner is the new president who just returned from further studies abroad. It is common for a new official to start with 3 big things. I wonder if this time the fire will burn her. What's the surname of the new president? Lu Canshuang inquired. I'm sorry, Mr. Lu, we don't know either. The staff shook his head. Lu Canshuang fell into deep thought. She had done some research before, but she didn't know if it was because Dingxing Group did a particularly good job of keeping secrets. She didn't find any relevant information. Even the people at Dingxing didn't know the identity of the president. I just received the relevant notification and learned that the president would be coming suddenly. She did not continue to embarrass the staff and looked towards the door of the meeting room. Da. After the hurried footsteps, the door of the conference room was pushed open. He Hongshen walked in wearing a haute couture suit. Is it him? Lu Canshuang felt bitter and recognized the person's identity at a glance. I immediately felt a mixture of emotions and felt very complicated. Mr. Lu, right? He Hongshen looked at the face that once existed in his memory with an indifferent expression, without any intention of reminiscing about the past. He sat down opposite, took the contract, and looked at the cooperation terms and projects on it. During the years abroad, he lived up to expectations and achieved success and fame, returning with glory. I just didn't expect that the contract I would be handling on the day I took office was with an old friend. Hongshen. After Lu Canshuang noticed the alienation, she still couldn't help but want to get closer. Part of it is for profit, and part of it is to make up for the past. Don't talk about personal matters in formal occasions. He Hongshen's expression changed and he interrupted Lu Canshuang forcibly. Regarding this cooperation, what kind of sincerity can the Lu Group show? After He Hongshen glanced at the contract, he threw it on the table and looked straight over. The strange yet familiar gaze carried enough oppression that made Lu Canshuang a little unable to adapt. Hope disappeared from her eyes. She knew she probably couldn't go back, so she started talking about the contract. Lu Canshuang was able to build the Lu Group to a certain level, which showed that she had some skills. She picked out all the more important points in the contract and analyzed them in detail. The above is the sincerity that the Lu Group can offer. I wonder what Mr. He thinks. Lu Canshuang's eyes were calm, and an invisible aura emanated from his body. He Hongshen seemed unaffected. After listening to the explanation, he shook his head slightly disappointedly. Not enough. Mr. He, why don't you just tell me what you want? In the business world, Lu Canshuang temporarily gave up her romantic feelings. She looked at He Hongshen, who was sitting opposite her, and began to respond cautiously. He Hongshen disappeared for 3 years without any news, but he was able to be parachuted into the position of president of the Dingxing Group branch. He definitely has some ability. As we all know, Dingxing Group does not keep mediocre people. Even if they are related to the company, they can only start from the bottom. If their performance is not satisfactory, they will be dismissed. Parachuting is very common in other companies, but it is almost never an exception in Dingxing Group. Based on the information Lu Canshuang had learned, this should be the first time. Whether it is the decision of Dingxing Group or He Hongshen's previous denial, it shows that it is not simple. Chapter 34. The Lu Group needs this contract, and she must get it no matter what. As far as I know, the reason why President Lu is eager to get this contract is because there was a problem with the previous project, which caused the company's capital chain to break and urgently needs to be repaired, right? He Hongshen raised his smoky smile and tapped his fingers on the table. As Lu Canshuang listened to the knocking sounds and the words spoken by the other party, her heart gradually sank to the bottom. The most taboo thing in discussing cooperation is to let the other party know your background and control your lifeline. Once you have a weakness, you will lose the initiative. The information Mr. He has is correct. Lu Canshuang smiled helplessly, then his eyes gradually became serious. However, those projects are useless to the Lu group and can be discarded at any time. Even if we can't get the contract, the capital chain will not be broken. Really? Hongshen was not disturbed and continued to walk at his own pace. Over the past few years, he has gained more training and knows how to gain more in negotiations. Especially when facing old friends. As an old friend who has been with him for 3 years, how could he not know the other person's style of doing things? It has not changed after so many years. It seems that after Zhu Xian's absence, Lu Canshuang has begun to look like a strong woman again. As the saying goes, chicken ribs are tasteless to eat but a pity to throw away. Can Mr. Lu really make up his mind? Hongshen cast a playful look. Not to mention that he and Lu Canshuang had no relationship anymore. Even if they were friends, he would not make any concessions in the field of cooperation. This is his first collaboration after being parachuted into the position of president. He must complete it beautifully to win greater benefits for the company and make those people shut up completely. Only in this way can he sit firmly on the position of president. Mr. He, you don't have to worry about these. Why don't you just tell me the conditions? Lu Canshuang knew that if all projects were treated the same, although the funding chain would be replenished, all the preparations made by the Lu group before might be wasted, and subsequent cooperation would probably be even more difficult to find. She must find a way to win this cooperation project at any cost. As long as she can reach a cooperation with Dingxing Group, subsequent cooperation will basically be easy for her. Lu Group will give up the leading position in the project, and the profit sharing will be changed to 80:20. Hongshen had already completed the calculation in his mind when he spoke. Knowing that this price is the lowest psychological price of the Lu Group. If the Lu Group dares to take a one-size-fits-all approach, he will take the initiative to increase his share. The extra part is purely due to Lu Canshuang's courage. Impossible. After hearing the request, Lu Canshuang refused bluntly. 70% to 30% is the price offered by the Lu Group. As for the leadership of the project, the Lu Group will not let anyone else do it. If the project's leadership is given up, the Lu Group will become extremely passive. According to Dingxing Group's practice, in subsequent cooperation, Lu Group may be gradually eliminated. By then, let alone 20% of the profits, even half of the profits will become a luxury. 82. The Lu Group still holds the dominant position. Hongshen raised his eyelids slightly and threw out the price. Okay. Lu Canshuang estimated that this should be the psychological price. Although the profit was not much, the company retained control of the project. This way, you will have room to maneuver in the future and won't become too passive. It's a pleasure to work with you. The two parties signed the contract and Lu Canshuang took the initiative to extend his hand. Hongshen shook hands politely. Mr. He, it's almost noon, how about having lunch together? Lu Canshuang invited. I'll go home and eat. Hongshen refused coldly and turned away. Lu Canshuang stared at the figure in a daze, a little absent-minded. Is it really impossible to go back? Chapter 35. Lu Canshuang chased after him. Mr. He, can we talk alone? She glanced at the employees around her with hope in her eyes. Hongshen glanced at his watch. You have 10 minutes left to speak. After saying that, he continued to lift his feet and walked forward. The corridor of the conference room was very long. Lu Canshuang hesitated for a moment and followed. After I said that, I lost your contact information. I wanted to apologize to you, but I never found the chance. Lu Canshuang walked on high heels and barely kept up with Hongshen. During this time, she talked as she walked, not daring to stop at all. Hongshen had no intention of stopping and kept moving forward. Looks like he's in a hurry. And then Hongshen stopped calmly. Boss Lu, what else are you going to say? Lu Canshuang hesitated to speak. She had obviously made up her mind, but the words were on the tip of her tongue and she couldn't say them. A hint of disappointment appeared in Hongshen's eyes, and he quickened his pace again. Since Mr. Lu hasn't organized his words yet, then take your time to organize them. I have to go back to eat, so I won't wait for you. Hongshen, I'm sorry. Seeing this, Lu Canshuang panicked, and finally plucked up the courage to say an apology that came many years late. Hongshen stopped and looked sideways. I wonder if Mr. Lu has ever heard this sentence. What? Lu Canshuang was puzzled. A belated apology is worth less than grass. A hint of sarcasm appeared in Hongshen's eyes. Since Mr. Lu knew that he was wrong, why did he still persist in his mistake? I explained so much to you at the beginning, but how much did you listen to? Hongshen teased. That's right, after all, Mr. Lu has Bai Yueguang in his heart, and he doesn't care about my feelings at all. If only. Hongshen paused and shook his head. The past is gone with the wind. There is no such thing as if. He sighed and continued walking. Hongshen, where have you been all these years? Lu Canshuang hurriedly chased after him. You know, I've been looking for news about you. Her eyes moved slightly, as if she was lost in some memories. Ever since I couldn't contact you that day, I started to reflect on my previous mistakes and found that I had many misunderstandings about you. It turns out that many things were not done by you. I wronged you. Hongshen remained unmoved and continued walking in the corridor. At this time, he felt that the branch of Dingxing Group was a bit too big, and even the corridor was too long. Since leaving the meeting room, I haven't had any peace and quiet. Is it important? Hongshen sighed, his expression complicated. 3 years have passed. Mr. Lu should look forward. Then he couldn't help but sigh. In this life, you will encounter many beautiful scenery. There is no need to stop at a certain place. Maybe many years later, you will find that the time was not worth it. Are you still blaming me? Lu Canshuang heard the hidden meaning. Hongshen shook his head. Boss Lu, you are joking. I was able to sit in the position of department manager thanks to Boss Lu's help. It was you who gave me the opportunity to exercise. How could I blame you? Hongshen walked to the end of the corridor and pressed the elevator button. During the waiting period, the steps were forced to stop. Hongshen, I just wanted to give Zhu Xian a favor at the beginning. We are just friends. I have never betrayed you emotionally. A bitter smile appeared on Lu Canshuang's face. Fortunately, there was no one near the elevator, so Hongshen didn't worry about others hearing the gossip. He stared at the numbers on the elevator panel, and said nonchalantly, for me, all this is in the past and not important anymore. If you have nothing else to do, Mr. Lu, please go back. Chapter 36. At this point, he paused and said, look at my memory. I forgot that this elevator is not my exclusive property. If other people knew that Mr. Lu took the stairs to sign the contract at Dingxing Group, wouldn't it make me look petty? Lu Canshuang had a complicated expression. Hongshen, I really know I was wrong. Can you please come back? I can't live without you. No matter what you do, I won't restrict you. Can we go back to the way we were before? As she spoke, Lu Canshuang grabbed Hongshen's wrist and shook it. It was like a couple in love acting coquettishly, except that Lu Canshuang was begging desperately. Hongshen had a blank expression on his face. He pulled his arm out unmoved, took a step to the side, and distanced himself from Lu Canshuang. 3 years have passed. It's time for Mr. Lu to let it go. What can't be returned to will never be returned to. Don't keep living in the past and make yourself a tragedy. If Hongshen had not met Li Qingshu, he might have softened his heart and changed his mind. During the 3 years of dating, he didn't know how many times he had accommodated Lu Canshuang, but all these eventually became the past. Now that he has Li Qingshu, there is no room for anyone else in his heart. Speaking of which, the scale of the Dingxing Group branch has yet to be expanded. There is only one elevator in the conference room. Wouldn't it be very crowded when employees leave after a meeting? He wants to mention this. Hongshen, you keep calling me Mr. Lu. Don't you really want to get closer to me? Lu Canshuang felt Hongshen's distance, but still wanted to hold his hand. Hongshen did not let her succeed and cleverly avoided it. Boss Lu, there are no friends in the field of cooperation. Moreover, today's cooperation is a losing deal for Boss Lu. It's good enough that Boss Lu doesn't hate me. How could he still consider me a friend? I was just saying that in anger. Lu Canshuang grasped the key words and thought of their last contact. After she said, I hate you, she could never find any news about Hongshen again. Only when you feel an emptiness in your heart do you know how it feels to lose someone. It turns out that she did not care, she was just used to it. It doesn't matter anymore. The elevator door opened and Hongshen walked into the elevator car. He glanced at his watch and felt that the 10 minutes he had said was still too long. Hongshen, please come back, I need you. Lu Canshuang continued to beg. Even though there were cameras in the elevator car, she didn't care at the moment. Hongshen was forced into the corner of the elevator, with nowhere to retreat. He decided not to avoid it anymore. His eyes suddenly became sharp, and he asked, Mr. Lu keeps saying that he needs me, why don't you answer me a question, in your heart, who is more important, me or Zhu Xian? If Zhu Xian had not been sent to jail in the first place, his departure would have been a kind of fulfillment. Judging from the time, Zhu Xian should have come out. Could it be that he is not together with Lu Canshuang? Lu Canshuang looked embarrassed. Hongshen did not continue to ask questions. He waited until the elevator door opened and walked around it. Lu Canshuang chased out. Then the phone rang and I glanced at the screen. It's Zhu Xian calling. She hesitated, stopped and answered the phone. Hongshen saw all of this, and a hint of mockery appeared on the corner of his mouth. Knowing the result, why ask? Chapter 37. The next day, Hongshen went to work at the Dingxing branch. As soon as I walked into the company, I learned that Lu Canshuang was waiting in the conference room. He raised his eyebrows slightly, entered the elevator, and went directly to the floor where the conference room was located. As the first partner after he took office, even if he disliked Lu Canshuang in his heart, he still had to maintain his appearance. The elevator door opened, Hongshen tugged at his tie, walked across the corridor, and pushed open the door of the conference room. Mr. Lu, you're here really early. Hongshen sat down opposite. The assistant at the side put the required contract on the table and poured 2 cups of tea. Hongshen waited until he finished his busy work before casting a glance at him. Mr. Lu, is there something important that you are here for? Logically speaking, when the project just started, the partners should be very busy and Lu Canshuang should not be so free. Mr. He, can I invite you to have a cup of coffee downstairs? Lu Canshuang invited. Hongshen's eyes flashed with surprise, and then he shook his head. Boss Lu also knows that I have just taken office for a short time. I am new here and I am not familiar with many of the company's businesses. How can I have time to drink coffee? Drinking a cup of coffee at work can indeed refresh one's mind and help with work, but if he were to drink it with Lu Canshuang, he instinctively wanted to refuse. He saw all the changes in Lu Canshuang yesterday. No matter what I do, Bai Yueguang is always placed in the most important position. Mr. He, I am inviting you in the name of a business partner. Lu Canshuang seemed to have expected this and brought out the speech he had prepared for a long time. This was not a spur-of-the-moment invitation, but a premeditated one. When Hongshen understood what was going on, he knew he couldn't refuse easily. If the contract is not negotiated, he can find all kinds of reasons to refuse. Even in response to the above, one can say that the Lu Group is not suitable as a cooperation target. Once the contract is signed, Lu Group will become a partner. If he even refused to drink coffee, Lu Canshuang could use this incident to make a fuss and cause some reputational impact on the Dingxing branch. Lu Canshuang only said she wanted to drink coffee, so he could refuse. However, if the other party claims that they want to discuss a cooperation plan in a cafe, but is ruthlessly rejected, the head office will not sit idly by and will most likely give some solution. Although you won't be dismissed, there will be some minor troubles. After thinking about it, Hongshen nodded and agreed, since it is Mr. Lu's cordial invitation, let's go. I just hope that Mr. Lu can talk about some important matters and stop sharing trivial matters in life. Hongshen gave a warning after glancing at the joy in Lu Canshuang's eyes. Of course. Lu Canshuang nodded in response. The two of them then met at the cafe downstairs, found a private room, and sat down. Soon after, 2 cups of coffee were brought up. I still remember that when I worked very late, you would always grind coffee for me yourself. Although it doesn't taste as good as the one in the store, it makes me feel warm inside. Lu Canshuang picked up the spoon and stirred the coffee meaningfully. Is this true? Hongshen looked confused and did not intend to give a direct response. Lu Canshuang's purpose was already clear, which was to pull him into the topic of the past and touch his heart through various memories. He had indeed done a lot for Lu Canshuang and had learned some knowledge for her from scratch, but those would eventually become the past. At this moment, he would only devote all his love to Li Qingshu. Lu Canshuang was stunned, probably because she didn't expect Hongshen to interrupt the spell directly. Chapter 38. However, this does not mean that she will back down. I called you last night. She continued to bring up a new topic. There was a trace of regret in his eyes. The one who answered the phone should be your daughter. If we hadn't separated, our child would probably be this old now. When Hongshen heard this, his expression gradually became strange. The movement of stirring the coffee in his hand suddenly stopped. Last night, he and Li Qingshu were feeding each other affectionately, and then he heard Xiaoyu answering the phone. He was afraid it was an important call, so he planned to take over. Xiaoyu had already ended the call, and was still mumbling something about a strange aunt. He was a little confused and called the phone back, but it was turned off. Fortunately, Li Qingshu is not a jealous person, otherwise, he would not be able to explain clearly about the phone call yesterday. Today, while on their way to work, he was still wondering who was calling. I didn't expect to find the real owner here. Mr. Lu, you should know that there is no possibility between us. My life is good now and I don't want any changes. If you don't plan to discuss a cooperation plan, then I'll take my leave first. Hongshen knew clearly that the disintegration of a family was not only due to the relationship between their husband and wife, but also to a third party. Even if Li Qingshu didn't say anything, he must still care in his heart. What he had to do was to give Li Qingshu enough sense of security and not give any third party the opportunity to interfere. Of course we have to talk about cooperation, but there are some things hidden in my heart that make me uncomfortable and unable to treat my work with high enthusiasm. I hope Mr. He can understand. Lu Canshuang found enough reasons. Not only did it stop Hongshen from speaking, it also prevented him from getting up and leaving. Since the partner said this, it means that further cooperation still needs to be discussed. Now that he has left, it has caused dissatisfaction, and the other party has complained to the head office, so it is possible that he will be given a minor punishment. Thinking of this, Hongshen smiled bitterly, picked up the unsweetened coffee and drank it in one gulp. This coffee is so bitter, you have to sip it slowly to appreciate it. Lu Canshuang said as he picked up 2 sugar cubes, threw them into the coffee, and kept stirring it with a spoon. A carefully sipped cup of coffee, even without sugar, is still bitter. Rather than continuing to be bitter, it is better to finish it in one gulp. A short-term bitterness is far better than endless bitterness. Hong was hinting at something. He didn't know whether Lu Canshuang could understand. What he just drank up was not coffee, but his past life. All the neglect and suffering he had endured during the 3 years with Lu Canshuang, as well as all the grievances he had suffered after Zhu Xian appeared, were over just like this cup of bitter coffee. He didn't plan to look back. If she had any such idea, she would not have married Li Qingshu. You can add sugar to coffee, it will taste bitter but sweet, and still have a long aftertaste. Lu Canshuang's eyes were complicated, but she didn't stop her hands and picked up a few more sugar cubes and threw them in. Mr. Lu, instead of torturing each other, why not just let go? A day without me will be a relief for you, right? Hongshen saw that the other party was pretending to be confused, so he didn't intend to hide it and simply made it clear. Lu Canshuang smiled bitterly and shook her head. After I lost you, I realized that Zhu Xian couldn't give me what I wanted. My life was like a mess. Wait a minute. Hongshen raised his hand to interrupt, his expression suddenly returning to seriousness. You mentioned Zhu Xian just now, isn't he in jail? Zhu Xian was implicated in that incident, so how was it resolved? Could it be that Lu Canshuang provided help? Hongshen looked over. Chapter 39. After Lu Canshuang noticed his gaze, she seemed to understand his thoughts and shook her head. It was Zhu Xian's family who helped him settle this matter. Hongshen suddenly realized that he seemed to have made a mistake. Zhu Xian is not a gigolo who lives off his girlfriend. The fact that he was able to study abroad for further studies shows that his family is not simple, and at least has some financial foundation. In addition, the fact that Zhu Xian had committed previous crimes was able to be settled by his family, which shows that Zhu Xian's family is quite powerful. Fortunately, the conflict between him and Zhu Xian did not involve his family members, otherwise, the story would have come to an end by now. Because of this incident, the relationship between Zhu Xian and I has become estranged. It is no longer the same as before. He has become more and more perfunctory towards me, especially on my birthday. I bought the cake, but he just sent a blessing through his mobile phone. A hint of sadness appeared in Lu Canshuang's eyes. Hongshen was not moved after hearing this, but instead commented, I think this is good, at least he still remembers your birthday. How could he remember? I was the one who sent him a message to remind him. I was planning to invite him to eat cake with me, but when I called him, I heard loud music. Lu Canshuang stopped stirring the coffee, picked up the coffee and took a sip. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he didn't like the taste of coffee. I remembered the first birthday you celebrated for me. Lu Canshuang cast a glance at him with a look of reminiscence. It's just a birthday. I've sent blessings to other people before. For example, I bought a cake and gave out red envelopes to Lao Chen, who I worked with before, on his birthday. Hongshen knew that such memories were most likely to stir up emotions, especially in negotiations. Some partners had played the victim before, trying to gain sympathy and increase their bargaining chips in this way. Although Lu Canshuang's purpose might not be to make concessions in the contract, her approach was basically the same. Besides, he really didn't intend to continue the conversation. If he continued, he was afraid that Lu Canshuang would reveal everything about the past as if she were talking about her daily life. No matter how good he was in the past, what can you do if he was not cherished at that time? It's different. Lu Canshuang's eyes hid a hint of complicated emotions. The relationship between you and me is different from that between Chen Ping and me. Even if there is a difference, it is only in the past. Hongshen interrupted ruthlessly, for Mr. Lu now, we are just partners. Once the cooperation has problems and cannot be maintained, there will be no contact at all. Is that what you think? Lu Canshuang was stunned for a moment, a hint of disappointment in her eyes. Then he picked up the coffee and drank it all. There were a few unmelted sugar cubes at the bottom of the cup, but she didn't care. She looked straight at Hongshen. Is there really no chance for us? Mr. Lu, you finished your coffee. Do you want another refill? Hongshen glanced at his empty coffee cup, pressed the bell on the table and called the waiter. If Lu Canshuang hadn't found an excuse to keep him, he would have been ready to leave. Under the pretext of discussing cooperation, they chatted about love. Lu Canshuang's behavior was considered to be in violation of regulations. But his identity was there, so even if he wrote an anonymous letter of complaint, the Lu group would not be able to deal with it. Refill. Lu Canshuang seemed unable to see that Hongshen wanted to leave, so she handed the coffee cup to the waiter. After the waiter left, she continued to communicate with Hongshen. Listening to his endless chatter, he kept praising how great he was in the past. Zhu Xian is inferior to him in every aspect. Excuse me, I'm going to the bathroom. Hongshen really didn't know how to wake up someone who was pretending to be asleep. Faced with Lu Canshuang's attitude of pretending to be confused even though she knew the truth, he was helpless and could only find an excuse to get away. Coming to the bathroom, Hongshen washed his face and looked at himself in the mirror. Chapter 40. Hongshen, think about the time when you were abandoned. It has to be said that Lu Canshuang successfully brought him back to the past, and those warm scenes emerged in his mind one after another like a kaleidoscope. He felt that if he didn't find an excuse to leave, there might be problems later. Now that he had sobered up with cold water, those memories were replaced by the 3 years he had spent with Li Qingshu. He couldn't tell the difference before comparing them, but after comparing them, his heart gradually calmed down. Love has always been a matter of both parties running for it, and one party taking the initiative to give. Compared to Lu Canshuang's indifference, Li Qingshu's response to everything warmed his heart. He recalled the thought he had by the riverbank, with a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? It was obviously his idea to be with Li Qingshu, so how could he change his mind just because of Lu Canshuang's pestering? But he probably couldn't refuse. We have to try another way. Hongshen took out his cell phone, dialed the number, said a few words, and then returned to the private room. Sorry to have kept Mr. Lu waiting for so long. Hongshen sat down, his eyes becoming calmer. Lu Canshuang noticed his change, but didn't take it to heart and continued chattering. In response, Hongshen always kept smiling and listened patiently. It was as if he was just a listener, not the protagonist of the story. Mr. Lu, please allow me to interrupt for a moment. Hongshen took the initiative to speak when Lu Canshuang stopped to drink coffee. As for the coffee, it should have been brought by the waiter while he went to the bathroom. None of this matters. Hongshen listened to many stories and finally grasped the key. He intended to use this as a counterattack to make Lu Canshuang shut up. Mr. Lu said before that after he left, he remembered my good points. So why didn't Mr. Lu come to find me? He deleted Lu Canshuang's contact information and blocked her phone number, but did not put Lu Canshuang under house arrest. If the other party really cares, with the capabilities of the Lu group, they can still find him. In fact, he never heard from Lu Canshuang again until he got married and went abroad. It was just like yesterday, when he was waiting for the answer. A call from Zhu Xian made He Hongshen understand that Zhu Xian was always more important in Lu Canshuang's heart. I was moving during that time. Lu Canshuang's eyes were full of resentment. That was obviously our wedding house, but you didn't tell me when you sold it. Until the buyer came to our door and kicked me out. My name is written on the property deed. I have absolute rights to deal with the house. He Hongshen remained calm and did not feel guilty at all. If Lu Canshuang's actions had not disappointed him, why would he sell the carefully designed wedding house? Let's not talk about selling the house for now. It was not until you left that I realized that you didn't take me back to meet your parents in these 3 years. As a result, I wanted to find you, but there was no way. Lu Canshuang continued to explain. Mr. Lu, have you forgotten what you do at that time every year? When He Hongshen heard this, a hint of ridicule appeared in his eyes. Is it that he doesn't have it, or that Lu Canshuang doesn't want to?